Vesper Haven was not a station so much as it was a desperate prayer cast in titanium and reinforced glass. It hung in the silent void above a dead, crater-pocked moon, spinning slowly to generate the pull of gravity that kept the champagne in the flutes and the diplomats in their chairs. From the outside, it looked like a rotating cathedral, a spire of light against the crushing dark of deep space. From the inside, it smelled of recycled air, expensive cologne, and the distinct metallic sharp scent of anxiety. Jonah Vale adjusted the collar of his dress uniform, which felt 2 sizes too tight around the neck. He checked the time on his retinal display for the 30th time in 5 minutes. It was 1400 hours. Station time. The summit was in full swing. Jonah was a security liaison, a title that sounded impressive on a resume but in practice meant he was a glorified usher with a sidearm he was strictly forbidden from using. He was competent, certainly. He had served 5 years in the Planetary Guard before transferring to the Diplomatic Corps. Looking for a quieter life, he had found that diplomatic work was just as dangerous as combat. Only the landmines were buried in conversations and the snipers wore silk. He stood near the entrance of the Grand Atrium, watching the parade of species and factions. There were the Terran delegates, sweating in their wool suits, looking stiff and uncomfortable. There were the Krill, encased in their envirosuits that hissed with every movement. And then, rarely seen but universally stared at, were the Asteri. The Asteri were the reason everyone was here. Tall, humanoid but distinct, with skin that seemed to absorb light and markings that glowed with bioluminescence. They were beautiful and terrifying. Rumors swirled through the station vents like dust. Some said the Asteri were desperate for this treaty, that their home system was failing. Others whispered that this was a trap, a lullaby before an invasion. The security briefings Jonah had sat through were full of blacked-out text and vague warnings. Multiple factions, both human and alien, wanted this peace to fail. Jonah's earpiece crackled. "Vale, we have a change in the delivery schedule." The voice of his supervisor, Miller, buzzed in his ear. "The secure data patch for the subcommittee needs to go to the VIP residential spire, floor 42, suite A1. Jonah frowned, tapping his comms unit. "I thought the subcommittee was meeting in the Blue Sector conference room. Why am I running a physical drive to a residential suite?" "Don't ask me," Miller replied, sounding as harried as Jonah felt. "The network is patchy up there. They want a hard copy. And Vale, don't mess this up. The mood is fragile. One wrong move and we are looking at an interstellar incident." "Understood," Jonah said. He navigated through the crowd, dodging a floating drone serving hors d'oeuvres and a pair of diplomats arguing in a language his translator was struggling to parse. His heads-up display flickered. A notification popped up. "Translator update pending. Install now." Jonah swiped the notification away. Not now. He reached the maglev elevator and pressed his thumb to the scanner. It flashed green, granting him access to the upper spires. As the doors slid shut, sealing out the roar of the atrium, silence descended. The lift shot upward, the inertia dampeners humming softly. His comms unit dinged again. A text message from Sarah in logistics. "Bet you 5 credits the Krill ambassador walks out before dinner." Jonah allowed himself a small, tired smile. He started to type a reply, his fingers moving over the holographic keyboard projected on his wrist. But another message flooded in, overriding the first. It was a chaotic stream of data from the security grid, a glitch in the dispatch system. "Redirect, priority 1, suite A7, correction, suite A1, correction, sector 4. The text scrambled, characters bleeding into one another. Jonah tapped the screen hard. Stupid system, he muttered. The elevator chimed. Floor 42. The doors opened onto a corridor that screamed wealth. The carpet was thick enough to swallow his boots. The walls were lined with real wood, likely imported from Earth at a cost that could feed a colony for a year. The lighting was low, tasteful, and amber. Jonah stepped out, checking the physical drive in his pocket. He was fairly certain Miller had said Suite A1, or had the glitch corrected it to A7. He looked at the layout on the wall. A1 was at the end of the hall, the largest suite, usually reserved for heads of state. He walked down the corridor. It was empty. Too empty. Usually, the VIP floors were crawling with private security details, muscular men and women in dark suits pretending to look at the artwork. Here, there was no one, just the hum of the ventilation and the distant thrum of the station's reactor core deep below. He reached the door labeled A1. He hesitated. If this was the wrong room, he was going to interrupt someone extremely important. But if he was late with the data, Miller would have his badge. He pulled out his universal access card, the one given to liaisons for delivery purposes. He swiped it through the reader. The light should have turned red if he was wrong. It should have denied him. It flashed green. Jonah let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. Okay. Right place. He palmed the door open and stepped inside. Delivery for the sub, he started to say, scanning the room for a desk or an aide. The words died in his throat. This was not a meeting room. It was not an office. It was a sanctuary, and it felt like walking into a different world. The lights were dimmed to a twilight blue. The air was cool, much cooler than the corridor, and it smelled of ozone, rain, and something sweet and nocturnal, like night-blooming jasmine on a planet he had never visited. The furniture was sleek, low to the ground, and arranged in a circle, and standing by the viewport, looking out at the jagged surface of the moon below, was a woman. She was Asteri. There was no mistaking the grace of her posture or the way the light seemed to bend around her. She was not wearing the stiff formal robes the diplomats wore in the atrium. She was barefoot, her feet sinking into the plush rug. She wore a wrap of shimmering living fabric that shifted like water over her skin, changing color from deep indigo to violet as she breathed. She turned slowly to face him. Jonah felt his heart slam against his ribs. She was breathtaking, in the way a thunderstorm is breathtaking, dangerous, elemental, and impossible to look away from. Her skin was a pale alabaster violet, marked with bioluminescent lines that traced the curve of her cheekbones and ran down her neck, glowing with a soft, rhythmic pulse. Her eyes were large, dark, and filled with nebulae of silver specks. Jonah froze, his hand still on the doorframe. He was a minor security liaison. She was clearly high-born, perhaps royalty, or at the very least a high-ranking envoy. And he had just barged into her private quarters. Jonah stammered, his training failing him completely. I am so sorry. I was told the data drive. He took a step back, his boots squeaking on the floor. Wrong room. Definitely the wrong room. I will leave immediately, he said, bowing his head slightly, keeping his eyes averted as protocol dictated. Forgive the intrusion. Excellency. He turned to go, his hand reaching for the door panel. No. The word was soft, barely a whisper, but it carried a weight that stopped him cold. It wasn't a command shouted by a drill sergeant. It was a statement of fact, delivered with a calm, amused curiosity. Jonah stopped. He looked back. The woman had not moved. She had not raised her voice. She had not pressed the panic button on her wrist that would summon a dozen guards to incinerate him. She was studying him, her head tilted slightly to the side, her glowing markings flaring a fraction brighter. "Stay," she said. Jonah blinked. "Ma'am, I am unauthorized to be here. If security finds me—" "They will not find you," she said, her voice like a cello string plucked in a quiet room. "Not yet." She took a step toward him. The fabric of her dress flowed around her legs like liquid smoke. Jonah swallowed hard. His instincts, usually sharp, were warring with each other. One part of his brain screamed that this was a trap, a honeypot, a diplomatic disaster waiting to happen. The other part was simply stunned by her presence. As she moved closer, Jonah's security brain finally kicked back online. He started to notice details he had missed in his initial panic. There was a hairline crack in the seal of the massive viewport window. It was tiny, almost invisible, but on a station like Vesper Haven, where structural integrity was religion, it was an impossibility. He looked at the security field generator in the corner of the room. The status light was flickering, not a steady green, but a rapid, erratic pulse. And then he saw it, near the ventilation grate on the far wall, half hidden by a decorative fern, was a small metallic object. It was melted, fused into a lump of slag, but the shape was unmistakable to someone who had spent 5 years in the Guard. It was a surveillance drone, a micro-class sneaker. It had been destroyed recently. The metal was still smoking slightly. Jonah's body tensed. The smell of ozone wasn't perfume. It was weapon discharge. "Get down!" Jonah shouted. He didn't think. He didn't process the diplomatic immunity or the consequences of tackling an alien envoy. He saw a shimmer in the wall seam, a distortion in the air like heat rising off asphalt. And he moved. A phased needle, a weapon outlawed in 12 systems for its ability to bypass standard shielding, slipped through the wall seam. It was silent, invisible to the naked eye except for the way it warped the light, and it was flying straight toward the woman's neck. Jonah lunged, throwing his body between her and the wall. He slammed into her, his momentum carrying them both to the floor. The woman was surprisingly solid, heavy with muscle beneath the soft skin. They hit the carpet with a thud. Something burned Jonah's shoulder. It wasn't the heat of a laser. It was a cold so intense it felt like fire. He gasped, his vision whitening for a second. The needle had missed her throat, but it had buried itself in his deltoid. He rolled off her, clutching his shoulder. His teeth gritted against the sudden numbing agony spreading down his arm. "Stay down," he rasped, reaching for his sidearm with his good hand. But the woman was already moving. She didn't scream. She didn't scramble away in fear. She snapped into action with a speed that blurred the air. She rolled to a crouch, her eyes wide and glowing with a fierce, blinding light. She raised her left wrist. Embedded in her skin was a crystalline implant that pulsed violently. "Freezing spectrum," she commanded. A wave of distortion rippled out from her. The room's lights died, replaced instantly by a monochrome gray. The sound of the ventilation stopped. For a heartbeat, time itself seemed to hang suspended. In that gray silence, the invisible tech hidden in the walls was suddenly revealed. Jonah saw them, glowing orange grids laced through the plaster, targeting sensors tracking their heat signatures, and the faint, ghostly outline of a second needle loading into the hidden launcher in the wall seam. Then, Jonah's vision glitched. He looked at the woman, Lyra, and he saw 2 of her. One Lyra was crouching beside him, her hand extended. The other Lyra was standing 3 feet to the left, staring at the door. It wasn't a blur or double vision from a concussion. It was 2 distinct, solid realities existing for a fraction of a second. An echo, Then the image snapped back to 1. The room's system surged. The hidden launcher in the wall sparked and exploded, overloaded by the pulse she had emitted.
Oh my God, where did he go?
Smoke poured from the seam. The lights flickered back to their dim blue. The gravity hum returned. Jonah lay on his back, breathing hard, the cold in his shoulder turning to a dull, throbbing ache. He looked up at her, but she was kneeling over him now, her expression intense, clinical. She wasn't looking at his wound. She was looking at his face, her eyes searching his pupils, his sweat, the pulse in his neck.
Turn off the stove.
It felt intrusive, as if she were listening to his heartbeat and translating it.
I feel like this is
"You are hurt,"
duty.
she said.
It's a little bit. 'Cause she has
"Assassin,"
cameras around the
Jonah
house.
managed to say, pointing his weapon at the wall. "We need backup." "No backup," she said firmly.
Okay.
She reached into a fold of her shimmering wrap and pulled out a small, translucent container. She popped the seal and pressed it against his
Okay,
shoulder.
have some tea. We're gonna relax
A
now.
biogel flowed out, warm and smelling of honey. It soaked into his uniform and into the wound. The pain vanished instantly, replaced by a soothing heat that felt like sunlight.
Oh my God, they have
Jonah
the
sat up,
music.
shaking his head to clear the dizziness.
Sounds like a real
"Who
freaking
are you?"
horror
he
movie.
asked, though he knew the
music
answer.
does. It's very creepy.
"I am Lyra Sarin,"
Hi, Jeffy.
she said,
Hi, Sammy. This is Jeff
"envoy of the
Bass.
Astery.
Super Saturday.
We have to
Love
call
you.
security,"
Jeffy,
Jonah said, struggling to his feet.
Today, hon.
He tapped his earpiece. "Control, this is Vale. I have a 1033 in VIP sector. Shots fired, I repeat, shots
Playing some
fired,
spooky game
static,
right now.
just
Like
white
home
noise."
invasion.
"My jammer is active," Lyra said calmly.
Check the camera.
She stood up, smoothing her wrap as if she had just tripped on a rug rather than survived an assassination
No
attempt.
message, not again.
"You cannot call them." "Why not?"
Cozy
Jonah
house
demanded,
remains. There's
his
always
fear
a
turning
person
into
at it.
anger. "Someone just tried to put a needle through your neck." "Because," Lyra said, turning to look at the smoking hole in the wall, "the only people who could bypass the perimeter sensors, disable the window alarms, and install a phased launcher inside the station's hull are the people running station security." Jonah stared at her. "That is insane. Vesper Haven is neutral ground." "There is no such thing as neutral ground," Lyra said. She looked at him then, really looked at him. Her eyes were sad, ancient. "They want the treaty to fail. If I die, my people will blame humanity. If you die protecting me, they will say you were a rogue agent who botched a kidnapping. Either way, the war restarts." She walked over to a small table and picked up a silver sphere that looked like a paperweight. She touched it, and it uncurled, revealing a pulsing core of blue light. "This is the treaty seed," she said. "It is a living quantum key. Without it, the documents cannot be signed. Without me, it dies. I am not just an envoy. Mr. Vale, I am the vault." Jonah looked at the sphere, then at the wall, then at his shoulder. He was a liaison. He organized seating charts. He did not do this. "I need to get you to the commander," Jonah said. "He is honest. He will arrest us," Lyra interrupted. "Or he will be overruled by the shadowy partners who paid for that launcher." She stepped closer to him. The scent of her, ozone and jasmine, filled his head. "You are involved now," she said softly. "I walked into the wrong room." Jonah protested. "It was an accident." "Was it?" Lyra asked. "You arrived at the exact second the needle fired. You were the only variable the targeting computer could not predict. You were placed here, human. Or fate is more humorous than I gave it credit for." Jonah opened his mouth to argue, but she cut him off. "You may leave," she said. She gestured to the door. "Walk out. Go back to your desk. Tell them you saw nothing." Jonah looked at the door. It was right there, 10 steps. "But if you do," she continued, her voice dropping an octave, becoming a vibration he felt in his chest, "you will be hunted." They saw your face on the sensors before I fried them. They know you saved me. You are a loose end, and without help, I will be dead within the hour, and the galaxy will burn." As if to punctuate her sentence, a low siren began to wail in the distance. Not a general alarm, a containment alarm. Jonah looked down at his access badge clipped to his belt. The holographic ID photo had turned a flashing, angry red. Status: revoked, detain on site. They didn't waste time, Jonah muttered. He looked at Lyra. She was waiting, her hand slightly extended, palm up. It was an offer, a terrifying, insane offer. Jonah looked at the door, then back at the alien woman who shimmered like water. He thought about his apartment on Earth, his cat, his pension plan. Then he thought about the cold burn of the needle and the silence of the room before the violence. He exhaled a long breath. "Where do we go?" he asked. Lyra smiled. It was a small, sharp smile. "Behind the walls," she said. She grabbed his hand. Her skin was warm, drier than human skin, and her grip was shockingly strong. She pulled him not toward the door, but toward the back of the suite, to a maintenance panel hidden behind a tapestry. She ripped the panel off with one hand, revealing a dark, cramped service crawl space filled with pipes and cabling. "Ladies first," Jonah suggested, his voice shaking slightly. Lyra laughed, a short musical sound, and dove into the darkness. Jonah took one last look at the luxury suite, the smoking wall, the melted drone, the lie of safety. He could hear heavy boots running down the corridor outside. The real security team was coming to finish the job. He climbed into the crawl space after her, pulling the panel back into place just as the suite door burst open. As they vanished into the station's guts, sliding down a chute into the unknown darkness, a single thought echoed in Jonah's mind. Clear and absolute. I entered the wrong room. The alien woman didn't ask me to leave. That night, the service chute deposited them onto a grating that rattled like loose teeth in a skull. Jonah Vale landed hard, his boots skidding on a slick of hydraulic fluid, his shoulder screaming in protest where the needle had struck. Lyra Saren landed beside him with the silence of a falling feather, her knees bending deep to absorb the impact, her shimmering wrap settling around her ankles a second later. They were in the station's intestines now, far above them. The VIP suite smelled of jasmine and champagne. Down here, the air tasted of recycled copper, ozone, and the damp metallic musk of machinery that had been running without a break for 50 years. Pipes the size of redwood trunks crisscrossed the ceiling, sweating condensation that dripped into puddles of iridescent oil. Jonah groaned, straightening up and clutching his arm. The biogel Lyra had applied was working, but the initial shock was wearing off, replaced by a deep, bone-weary ache. "Welcome to the underworld," Jonah muttered, looking around at the dim corridor lit only by emergency amber strobes. "I assume this was part of the diplomatic itinerary." Lyra stood, brushing a speck of grease from her arm. Her bioluminescence was brighter down here in the gloom, casting a violet halo that made the steam rising from the floor grates look like magical mist. "I do not recall a tour of the waste reclamation systems in the schedule," she said, her voice dry. "But I suppose it is an educational detour." She began to walk, not looking for signs or maps, but moving with a strange, fluid certainty. She turned left at a junction that looked identical to the right, ducked under a low-hanging conduit without breaking stride, and navigated the maze of the maintenance sector as if she had built it herself. "How do you know where you are going?" Jonah asked, jogging slightly to keep up with her long, graceful strides. "This place is a labyrinth. Even the maintenance droids get lost down here." "I can feel the geometry," Lyra said, tapping her temple. The station spins. The gravity creates a Coriolis force that vibrates through the hull. I simply walk toward the heaviness. That is down, and I walk away from the hum of the reactors. That is out. Jonah shook his head. Must be nice. I just follow the arrows, and half the time they point to a wall. He ducked under a sizzling steam vent. Who designs a corridor with a steam vent at head height? It is a lawsuit waiting to happen. It is human architecture, Lyra observed, stepping neatly over a pile of discarded conduits. It prioritizes the destination over the journey. You build straight lines through chaos and are surprised when the chaos leaks in. My people build with the flow of energy, not against it. Jonah snorted. Well, right now, I would trade your flow of energy for a working elevator and a stiff drink. He glanced at his wrist unit. It was dead. No signal. The jammer Lyra had mentioned was effectively isolating them, but it also meant he was blind. He checked the translator earpiece. It was buzzing intermittently, trying to recalibrate to the ambient noise of the tunnels. Lyra stopped suddenly at a heavy blast door. She turned to him, her eyes wide and luminous. We need to synchronize, she said. Jonah blinked. Excuse me? My translator, she said, gesturing to the silver cuff on her ear. It is struggling with your dialect idioms. When you said stiff drink, it translated as corpse liquid. Jonah let out a short, startled laugh. That is charming. Lyra stepped closer, her expression intense. The violet markings on her cheeks flared. I need to understand you. Jonah, the translator says you are agitated, but your pheromones suggest curiosity and fear. The translator crackled in Jonah's ear. Subject desires to consume your fear for sustenance. Jonah took a step back, holding up his hands. Whoa. Okay. Consuming fear is a hard pass for me. Lyra frowned, tapping her ear cuff. No. That is not what I said. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. When she opened them, the swirling nebulae in her irises seemed to slow down. Resonance, she said clearly. It is an Asteri trait. When we are under extreme stress, our nervous systems reach out. We seek a baseline, a connection to stabilize our own biorhythms. Jonah stared at her. You want to stabilize off me? I am currently running on adrenaline and regret. I am not exactly a stable baseline. Lyra took another step. They were inches apart now. The heat coming off her was palpable, not like human body heat, but radiating like a sun-baked stone. It is not about calm, she said. It is about truth. Resonance forces honesty. It syncs our reactions. If I am afraid, you will feel it. If you are in pain, I will carry it. It heightens emotion. It heightens desire. The last word hung in the damp air between them. The translator whispered in Jonah's ear. Subject proposes a reproductive treaty. Jonah coughed, choking on his own spit. Okay, the translator is definitely broken, or it has a very specific sense of humor. Lyra looked confused for a moment. Then a ghost of a smile touched her lips. She understood the error. It creates a bond, she corrected. A survival bond. It is how my people survive the void. We do not endure alone. Suddenly, Jonah gasped, clutching his shoulder. A sharp, rhythmic throb pulsed through his wound, totally out of sync with his heartbeat. It felt like a hook pulling him forward. Lyra's smile vanished. She reached out, her fingers hovering over the bandaged wound on his shoulder. It is not just a wound, she whispered. Jonah gritted his teeth. It feels like it is vibrating. It is an echo, she said, her voice grim. The needle. It did not just carry poison, it carried a resonance tag. It is broadcasting a signal. Jonah looked at the blood seeping through the bandage. They are tracking me? They are tracking us through you, Lyra said. She looked down the dark tunnel, her eyes narrowing. We cannot stay in the maintenance shafts. The acoustics here amplify the signal. We need noise. We need interference. Where do we get that? Jonah asked, sweating as another pulse of pain hammered his shoulder. Lyra grabbed his good arm, pulling him upright. The old ring, she said, the black market. The transition from the maintenance tunnels to the old ring was like stepping from a submarine into a carnival. The old ring was the original habitation module of Vesper Haven, abandoned 40 years ago when the new spires were built, and immediately reclaimed by everyone who didn't fit in the shiny diplomatic world above. The air here was thick with smoke, frying spices, and the desperate energy of illicit commerce. The corridors were lined with stalls built from scavenged hull plating, glowing with neon signs in a dozen languages. Music thumped from unseen speakers, a bass-heavy rhythm that shook the floor. Jonah pulled his collar up, trying to hide his face. He was still wearing his dress uniform, which down here made him look like a target painted in neon. Lyra was an even bigger problem. She was a beacon of violet light in a sea of grime. You stand out, Jonah murmured, leaning close to her ear. I know, she said tightly. She stopped in the shadow of a stall selling dubious-looking cybernetic eyes. She closed her eyes and clenched her fists. I must mask, she said. Jonah watched as the impossible happened. The luminous markings on her skin, the violet lines that defined her alien heritage, began to fade. It was not a switch being flipped. It looked like she was willing the light to retreat inward. The glow dimmed, flickered, and then vanished, leaving her skin a pale, matte gray. She looked like a statue of herself. As the light died, Lyra gasped, her knees buckling. Jonah caught her, his arm going around her waist. She felt heavy, dead weight against him. Her breathing was ragged, shallow gasps that rattled in her chest. Are you okay? Jonah asked, alarm spiking in his chest. It hurts, she whispered, her eyes opening. They were no longer swirling with stars. They were dark, flat, and full of pain. To deny the light is to deny the breath. It suffocates the cells. How long can you hold it? Long enough, she gritted out, pushing herself upright, though she kept one hand on Jonah's arm for support. Jonah felt a strange sensation in his own chest, a tightness, a phantom shortness of breath. He looked at her, remembering what she said about resonance. If I am in pain, you will carry it. I got you, he said, and he meant it. His hand tightened on her waist, not possessive, but anchoring. Just breathe. I will do the walking. They moved into the crowd. Jonah kept his head down, steering Lyra through the crush of bodies. He saw a Tellarite arguing with a droid over the price of memory chips. He saw a group of human mercenaries playing cards on a crate of ammunition. He steered them toward a shop front that looked like it had been built inside a hollowed-out engine turbine. The sign above the door was a glitching hologram of a wrench and a smiley face. Inside, the shop was a chaotic jumble of wires, engine parts, and illegal biomods. Sitting cross-legged on a floating workbench, surrounded by a cloud of holographic schematics, was a woman with neon pink hair and a mechanical arm that ended in a multi-tool. Miko, Jonah called out, hoping his memory of the old intel files was correct. The woman spun around on her bench, the multi-tool whirring. She leveled a plasma welder at them. We are closed, she shouted. Unless you have Class 4 power cells, in which case come in, but do not touch the cat. There was no cat visible, only a robotic spider perched on a shelf. Jonah stepped into the light, holding his hands up. It is Jonah Vale. From the Port Authority.
Share with me, Zypher.
I
Share
looked
with
the
me.
other way on that shipment of unregistered gravity boots last year.
Games of horror games,
Miko
free
squinted,
games? That's
the lens in her
cool.
left eye
Why
zooming
didn't
in
you
with an
do that,
audible
Zypher?
click.
What about
Vale,
you?
the stiff from Sector 7. You look like you went 12 rounds with a trash compactor. She lowered the welder, then her gaze shifted to Lyra. Miko's eyes widened. And you brought a friend, she drawled. A very tall, very gray friend who looks suspiciously like she is supposed to be glowing purple and signing treaties upstairs. Lyra stepped forward, her movement stiff. Miko, I require aid. Miko hopped off the bench, landing with a clank of magnetic boots. She walked a circle around Lyra, whistling low, the Lyra Saren, in my shop, masking her light like a common fugitive. Miko shook her head. The bounty on you right now is enough to buy this entire moon. Princess, why shouldn't I just weld you to the bulkhead and call the hotline? Because, Lyra said, her voice faint but steady, you value chaos more than credits. And because I know where you hid the stolen atmospheric scrubbers from the layout of the old station, Miko grinned, showing a gold tooth. Touché. Also, I hate the cops, and you look terrible. Sit down before you fall down. She kicked a crate toward them. Lyra collapsed onto it, her head bowing. Jonah stepped forward. We need medical supplies, biofoam, distinct spectrum antibiotics, and a signal jammer, a strong one. Miko raised an eyebrow. Shopping list for a war zone? Something like that, Jonah said. Also, can you do anything about a tracking echo? Miko grabbed a scanner and waved it over Jonah's shoulder. She whistled again. Nasty work, she said. Phased needle tech. That is military grade. I can't remove it without a surgery bay. But I can mask the signal. Confuse it. Make it look like you are bouncing between 3 different decks. Do it, Jonah said. Miko went to work, her mechanical fingers flying. She slapped a patch over Jonah's bandage that hummed with a low frequency. Then she tossed a bag of medical supplies to Jonah. That will cost you, she said. Jonah patted his pockets. I have a standard issue access card and 40 credits. Miko rolled her eyes. Put it on my tab. But you owe me. Vale. Big time. Now get out. My sensors are picking up drone chatter on the perimeter. They are sweeping the old ring. Jonah grabbed the bag. Thanks. Miko, don't die. Miko called out as they turned to leave. It is bad for repeat business. They didn't make it far. They were moving through a derelict connector tube, a zero-gravity zone that used to connect the old ring to the shipyard, when the drones found them. The hum gave them away first, the angry buzz of high-speed rotors. Then 3 sleek black shapes dropped from the ceiling vents, their red eyes scanning the darkness. Sentry drones, Jonah shouted. He pushed off the wall, launching himself into the zero-G space. Without gravity, up and down vanished. He floated toward a cluster of floating debris, crates, tools, loose piping. Lyra moved with him, but where Jonah flailed, she flowed. She kicked off a bulkhead, twisting her body in midair to dodge a stun bolt that sizzled past her ear. The drones opened fire. Red lasers strafed the corridor, burning lines into the metal walls. Jonah grabbed a floating wrench and threw it. It missed the lead drone by a yard, tumbling uselessly into the dark. I am not a soldier, he yelled, grabbing a handle on the wall to anchor himself. Lyra didn't answer. She was a blur of motion. She pushed off a floating crate, propelling herself straight at the drones. Don't! Jonah screamed, but she didn't attack. She spun. As she passed the first drone, she didn't strike it. She reached out with surgical precision and plucked the sensory antenna from its casing. The drone spiraled out of control, blind, crashing into the wall.
What's going on?
The second drone swiveled to track her. Lyra grabbed a floating coil of wire, whipped it around the drone's rotors in a single fluid motion, and yanked. The motor seized with a screech of tearing metal,
My mind.
and the drone died. The third drone locked onto Jonah.
Oh no.
Jonah stared down the barrel of the laser cannon. He braced for the burn.
Where did
Suddenly,
the
a gray
candle-
blur slammed into the drone from above. Lyra kicked it, not to shatter it, but to knock its gyroscope offline. The drone spun wildly, firing lasers into the ceiling,
What
before
is
slamming
this?
into a bulkhead and sparking out.
Next door is
Silence returned to the corridor, save for the heavy breathing of the two fugitives floating in the center of the tube. Jonah stared at Lyra. She was hanging upside down relative to him, her hair floating in a halo around her face. She looked exhausted, her gray skin sheen with sweat, but her eyes were fierce. You didn't destroy them, Jonah said, breathless. You just turned them off. Destruction is waste, Lyra said, pulling herself along a handrail toward him. Those machines were just following code. Like the soldiers who sent them, we disable, we do not delete. She winced, her hand going to her chest. The effort of the fight, combined with the masking, was taking its toll. We need to rest, Jonah said. Now. He spotted an airlock hatch marked Emergency Supply Cache 4.
Can't get out.
He grabbed the handle and cranked it. The seal broke with a hiss, and he pulled Lyra inside. The compartment was small, barely a closet, meant for storing EVA suits. It was lined with padded white fabric and smelled of sterile preservation gas. Gravity was low here, but present, about half standard. Jonah guided Lyra to a bench and sat her down. She slumped against the wall, her breathing ragged. "Let me look at the shoulder," she whispered, reaching for the bag Miko had given them. "You need to rest," Jonah argued. "Sit," she commanded. It was weak, but the authority was still there. Jonah sat. The space was so small their knees were touching. Lyra opened the bag and took out a scanner and a fresh bio patch.
We're in trouble.
She reached for his shirt. "I need access to the wound." Jonah hesitated, then unbuttoned his tunic. He pulled his arm out of the sleeve, wincing as the fabric tugged on the bandage. He sat there, half naked in the dim light of the emergency glow strips, feeling incredibly vulnerable. Lyra peeled back the old dressing. She worked in silence, her fingers cool and efficient. She cleaned the wound, applied the new gel, and sealed it with the patch Miko had modified. Jonah watched her face. She was close enough that he could count the eyelashes that framed her dark eyes. He could see the strain lines around her mouth, the way her gray skin looked almost translucent with fatigue. "Why didn't you call the guards?" Jonah asked quietly. "Back in the suite, before the assassin. You could have pressed the alarm the second I walked in." Lyra paused, her hand resting on his shoulder. She didn't look up. "I told you," she said. "I sensed you. You sensed I wasn't a threat?" "No," she said, finally meeting his eyes. "I sensed you were not empty." "Empty? Most humans I meet..." Lyra searched for the words. Their minds are static. Noise, ambition, greed, fear. It is a wall of white noise. But you... When you walked in, your mind was open, curiously quiet. There was an echo pattern in your neural rhythm. It felt familiar, like an Asteri song, but sung in a human key. Jonah stiffened, pulling away slightly. "So you read my mind, without my permission?" "I did not read your thoughts," Lyra said quickly. "I read your presence. It is unavoidable for my kind. It is how we navigate." "It feels like a violation," Jonah said, his voice hard. "I walked into a room. I didn't consent to being scanned, or analyzed, or judged as not empty. Lyra flinched. She pulled her hand back, clasping it in her lap. "You are right," she said softly. Her voice was thick with genuine regret. "I apologize. In the courts of the Asteri, resonance is a language. We speak it constantly. I forget that for your species, the mind is a fortress, not a garden. I assumed my status gave me the right to know you. That was arrogance. I am learning." She looked so small in that moment, stripped of her glowing armor, apologizing to a minor liaison in a supply closet.
Oh my God.
Jonah's anger deflated. He sighed, rubbing his face with his good hand. "It is okay," he said.
Oh,
"I am just on
she
edge."
ran off when she heard the
He
police
looked at her.
arriving.
"You said resonance creates desire," he said. "Is that what this is? This
Oh my God.
pull?
I can never
Because I
forget
feel
the
like I am
scene
standing
of
on the edge of a cliff and the gravity is wrong." Lyra looked at him, her gaze unflinching. "Resonance amplifies what is already there," she said. "It does not create from nothing." She leaned in slightly. "I am afraid of it," Jonah admitted. "I am afraid of wanting you. You are a diplomat, an alien. You glow, for God's sake. And I am just a guy who delivers mail. Everything about you feels like gravity. Too much gravity. I will get crushed." Lyra's eyes softened. "And I am afraid of wanting you," she whispered. "Because for my people, resonance is not casual. It is a binding vow. To share a resonant state is to share a soul path. If I let myself want you, and you leave, it will tear a piece of me away that will never grow back." The air in the small room felt charged, electric. The distance between them seemed to vanish. "So," Jonah said, his voice husky, "we are at an impasse. A rule," Lyra said. She held up a finger. "No intimacy while one of us feels coerced. By fear, by adrenaline, by duty. If we touch, it must be because we choose it, not because the universe is forcing us together." Jonah looked at her finger, then at her eyes. "Deal," he said. He buttoned his shirt, the mundane action grounding him. "So,
That was a good one.
what is the plan? We can't stay in this closet forever." Lyra took a breath, centering herself.
We have another
The immediate
game.
crisis of the
Nobody
wound
called
was
it over.
managed.
We're gonna play another
Now
game.
came the
That
politics.
was a
"The
good
treaty
one.
signing is in 12 hours,"
Making more
she said.
episodes. I really
The
enjoyed
assassination
that.
attempt was designed to stop it. If we hide,
The
they win.
next game we're
They will
going
claim I
to
was kidnapped or killed.
play
So we have to show them you are alive,
is-
Jonah said.
We have another
"We need to do more than that,"
try.
Lyra said. "We need to expose the lie. We need to reach the central broadcast hub."
We could play
"The
one.
hub?"
It's called Butcher
Jonah
of the
asked.
North.
"That is in the core spire.
Though.
That is the most heavily guarded
Solid
sector
one.
on the station."
So,
"Exactly,"
we can
Lyra
try
said.
it and see how it is.
"It is the only place where the signal cannot be jammed or faked.
We'll try Butcher
If I can interface with the core,
of the North.
I can broadcast the Treaty Seed's log.
All right.
It recorded the assassin's energy signature.
Quick.
It will prove the attack came from inside the station." "It is a suicide mission," Jonah said. "It is the only mission," Lyra countered. Jonah nodded slowly. "Okay,
All right.
broadcast hub.
Settings.
We need a route that doesn't involve getting shot by drones." He reached for his comm unit, intending to check the schematics Miko had uploaded. The unit buzzed. Not a glitch this time. A direct encrypted message. It blinked red. "Priority override." Jonah frowned. "The jammer is supposed to block this." "This is on a hard line frequency," Lyra said, leaning over to look. "Someone is pushing through the static." Jonah opened the message. It was audio only. The voice was distorted but recognizable. It was Miller, his supervisor. But the tone was wrong. Cold, robotic. "Jonah Vale, you are charged with treason and the kidnapping of Envoy Saren. Surrender immediately at the nearest security checkpoint. Lethal force is authorized." Jonah felt his stomach drop.
Hello?
They are pinning it on me, just like you said.
Are you okay?
Wait, Lyra said. Look at the signature. At the bottom of the message, there was a string of authentication code. Auth, Omega 99 Bluebird. Jonah stared at it. Bluebird, he whispered.
You guys should be.
What does it
I don't
mean?
know why it's
Lyra
not
asked.
showing in the title.
Jonah looked up, his face pale.
Search.
Miller, my mentor. When I was a rookie, he taught me everything. He told me,
What I do,
if I ever send you an order that feels wrong, look for the Bluebird. If you see it, run the other way.
sometimes
It means I have a gun to my head.
Yes, the games.
Jonah clenched his fist around the comm unit.
There we go.
He didn't send this to arrest me,
Sometimes you just have
Jonah
to
said, his voice hardening.
work. Can you guys
He
hear
sent
it?
this to warn me. He is compromised. The whole department is compromised. He looked at Lyra. We are on our own, he said.
Ever since I
Lyra
was a
stood up,
kid,
wincing slightly but finding her balance. She offered him her hand.
and
Not
it's difficult
entirely,
to change
she said.
by any means necessary.
Jonah looked at her hand, the long gray fingers that
Like
should have been
ordinary
glowing.
people, Santa
He took
started
it.
doing business through the
No,
internet.
he said. I guess
And I
not.
tried to trace
He
his
squeezed her
IP
hand,
address.
respecting the rule they had just set.
Now I
Comfort,
definitely can
support,
get my gifts.
but nothing more. Not yet. Let's go steal a broadcast station, he said. They opened the hatch and stepped back into the darkness of the tunnels, leaving the safety of the closet behind.
Santa Claus. Well,
The silence of the station felt heavier now, pregnant with the threat of what was to come.
greetings.
But as they moved, their footsteps fell in a synchronized rhythm, two distinct beats finding a common time in the dark.
What is this? You're
The
not
climb from the
here.
bowels of the old ring to the pristine silence of the diplomatic sector was a journey through the social strata of Vesper Haven. Jonah Vale and Lyra Sarin moved through the service arteries,
Sorry, Frosty,
ascending
but
ladders that
we're
spanned
actually gonna
50
find
decks,
Santa.
their breathing harsh in the recycled air. They reached the blast door separating the maintenance shafts from the high diplomatic zone.
Here I am.
It was a slab of reinforced plasteel,
Nick, where are
sealed
you?
with a tri-key encryption that would take a standard slicer 3 days to crack. Jonah leaned against the bulkhead, wiping sweat from his forehead. His shoulder throbbed with a dull, rhythmic ache that seemed to sync with the humming of the station's power conduits. We are stuck, Jonah whispered, checking the dead readout on the door panel.
For every undelivered
This seal is military grade. Miko's jammer won't open this. Lyra stepped forward. She had reapplied her masking, her skin once again a dull, lifeless gray, but her eyes held a feverish brightness. We do not need to break the lock, she said softly. We need to ask it to yield. She raised her hand. For a moment, Jonah thought she was going to blast it with some hidden weapon. Instead, she turned her palm upward. From the pores of her skin, tiny, shimmering shards emerged. They grew rapidly, blooming like crystalline petals, faceting the light into rainbows. It was beautiful and deeply unsettling. Biology acting like technology. Living keys, Lyra explained, her voice tight with the effort. Asteri diplomat access is not digital. It is genetic. The station was retrofitted to recognize our biological signature as a gesture of trust. She pressed her palm, now encrusted with the glittering crystal, against the cold steel of the door. The metal groaned. The locking mechanism didn't beep. It sang, a harmonic resonance that vibrated through the floor. The heavy bolts retracted with a fluid hiss, and the door slid open. Slid. Jonah stared at her hand as the crystals dissolved back into her skin, leaving no trace. Remind me never to play poker with you, he murmured. You literally have an ace up your sleeve, or in your skin. Lyra didn't smile. The effort had cost her. She swayed, and Jonah instinctively reached out, his hand hovering near her waist without touching. I am fine, she breathed. We are inside. They stepped into the corridor. The air here was different, scented with expensive filtration, silent, and terrifyingly exposed. The diplomatic sector was a ghost town at this hour, the delegates likely sequestered in their suites preparing for the morning ceremony. They moved quickly, hugging the walls. Their destination was the secondary server node, a data routing station disguised as a janitorial closet near the main atrium. Inside the node, the space was cramped and freezing, filled with the blue glow of server racks. Jonah plugged Miko's signal jammer into the main port. The device hummed, spitting out a holographic interface. Jonah's fingers flew across the virtual keyboard. He was not a master hacker, but he knew the station's filing system. He bypassed the public logs and dug into the security subroutines. "There," he said, pointing to a stream of red code scrolling down the display. "That is not standard station protocol." Lyra leaned in, her shoulder brushing his. "What is it?" "It is a shadow protocol," Jonah said, his eyes widening as he parsed the data. "It is running underneath the official security grid. It has administrative override on all cameras, door locks, and bioscanners." He traced the command line back to its source. "Authorization, Heliot block." He read. Lyra stiffened. "The Heliot block. They are a human political coalition, radical isolationists. They argue that humanity should not dilute its sovereignty by mingling with older species." "They are not just arguing anymore," Jonah said grimly. "Look at this." He pulled up a file tagged Operation Broken Star. It was a tactical assessment of the assassination attempt. The report detailed the weapon used, the phased needle, and explicitly stated the objective. Stage assassination to resemble a stary internal coup. Fabricate evidence of war faction involvement. Trigger immediate human retaliation. "They want to frame you for your own murder," Jonah said, the horror of it sinking in. "If you had died in that room, the narrative would have been that your own people killed you to stop the peace. Humanity would have been the grieving victims, justified in launching a preemptive strike." "It is elegant," Lyra said, her voice cold and monstrous. Jonah kept digging. He found a timeline, a countdown clock. 72 hours. He said, "That is the window. If the treaty is not signed, the Heliot block mobilizes the fleet. They are already moving ships into position. We need to copy this," Lyra said. "All of it." Jonah initiated the download to the data core they had stolen. As the progress bar crawled forward, his comm unit buzzed. It was Miller again, the secure channel. Jonah hesitated. The last message had been a trap, but he needed to know what they were playing at. He accepted the audio link but kept the jammer active to scramble his location. "Sir," Jonah said, his voice steady. "Jonah." Miller's voice came through. It was warm, familiar, carrying the gravelly cadence of the man who had taught Jonah how to tie a tactical knot. "Thank God you picked up. The message, the arrest order. It wasn't me. They have compromised the network." Jonah's grip on the console tightened. "Where are you?" "Miller, I am in the safe house. Sector 9. You know the one. I managed to get out before the lockdown." "Jonah, listen to me. You need to bring the envoy in. We can protect her. I have a team I trust." The voice was perfect. It had the right inflection, the right concern. But something in the phrasing snagged in Jonah's mind. "A team I trust." Miller never said that. Miller was a paranoid old bastard who always said, "I have a team that is paid enough not to shoot me." Jonah narrowed his eyes. "Tell me, Miller, what is the name of your dog?" There was a pause, a microsecond of silence that felt like an eternity. "Buster," the voice said smoothly. "A golden retriever." Jonah ended the call. "His dog's name was Buster," Jonah whispered to the empty room. "But he died 4 years ago." Miller never talks about him in the present tense. Never. He looked at Lyra.
People say that I've
That
been
wasn't him.
tremendous, and
Lyra was
I
staring at him,
think you
her
are
eyes
too.
wide.
So for Christmas, I am
She wasn't
bringing
looking
home
at his
a
face. She
really
was looking at the air
open
around him.
luxury car. I promise to keep
Jonah,
being great
she
and
said
make you
urgently.
proud. Thank
Your
you.
resonance, it is loud.
And even that bastard
What?
gets a present? Oh my
Suddenly,
God.
a wave of sensation hit Jonah that wasn't his own. It was a sharp,
I have
biting
deserved all
cold,
of this.
followed by a rush of terrifying clarity. He stumbled, gripping the server rack.
Ooh.
What is happening? He gasped.
Uh-oh.
The tracking echo, Lyra said, stepping closer but not touching him. It is synchronizing with my field. The stress. It is bridging our nervous system. I can feel you.
Oh my God. Were they
Jonah
referring
felt
to
it then.
Donald Trump?
A wash of profound, ancient sadness that wasn't his.
Because the way
It
the
tasted
person
like
is,
purple
I
light
can
and
see it on
sounded
his
like
lips,
glass
like,
breaking.
oh my God. I
He
don't
was
know.
feeling Lyra's
That's
grief,
funny if it was.
and she was feeling him.
These filthy socks should be
Jonah's
burned.
mind, unmoored by the connection, latched onto the most immediate, ridiculous thought he had. He looked at Lyra, standing there in the blue light, dangerous and regal, and for a split second, his brain betrayed him.
Explore further.
He wondered if her skin felt as smooth as it looked, or if it had the texture of the crystal petals, and then,
Uh-oh.
mortifyingly, he remembered the hole in his sock inside his left boot and hoped she wouldn't judge his laundry skills. The thought broadcasted loud and clear.
I feel like we're about to
Lyra
find something
blinked.
that we don't want
Then
to.
she let out a sound that was half laugh, half snort. Your sock? She asked, her voice trembling with mirth. We are being hunted by an interstellar conspiracy, and you are projecting anxiety about hosiery? Jonah felt his face burn hot, a flush that had nothing to do with the temperature. Stop it, he hissed. Get out of my head. I am trying. Lyra laughed again, a bright human sound that cut through the tension. But you are shouting it. It is adorable. Adorable is not the look I am going for, Jonah grumbled, checking the download progress. 90%. The laughter died as quickly as it had come. Lyra's expression shifted, the amusement replaced by a sharp, focused intensity. She tilted her head. Footsteps, she whispered. Real ones. Jonah killed the holographic display just as the download finished. He yanked the core. Hide, he commanded. There was nowhere to go. The server room was a dead end. The door hissed open. Jonah raised his weapon, his hand shaking slightly. A figure stumbled in. It was a man, hunched over, clutching his side. He wore a torn security uniform, stained with dark blood. He looked up, his face bruised and swollen. Jonah, the man rasped. Jonah lowered the gun. Miller! It was him, the real Miller. He looked nothing like the voice on the comms. He looked like a man who had been dragged through hell. Miller collapsed against the door frame. You are alive. Good. Jonah rushed forward, grabbing his mentor before he hit the floor. He dragged him into the room and propped him up against a server rack. I just talked to you, Jonah said, pressing a hand to Miller's bleeding side. On the secure channel. You told me to go to Sector 9. Miller coughed, spitting blood. That wasn't me, kid. That was an echo double. Lyra stepped forward, her presence filling the small room. Echo double? Miller looked at her, his eyes widening in recognition, then fear. He nodded weakly. It is new tech, Miller wheezed. Neural mapping. They take a person, scan their speech patterns, their memories, their personality matrix. Then they build a digital skin, a ghost. It sounds like me. It thinks like me. But it does what they say. He looked at Jonah, gripping his arm with surprising strength. I have been in a cell for 6 hours. Jonah, I didn't send the order to arrest you, but the double did. And the double is the one running the security grid right now. Who is doing this? Miller, Jonah demanded. Who is controlling the double? Miller closed his eyes for a moment. "Director Call," he whispered. Jonah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold room.
There was a ladder
Call?
in here.
The architect of the summit? The man on all the posters shaking hands with orphans? "He is the head of the Heliot block," Miller said.
Welcome
"He
back
built
to
this whole summit not to make peace, but to create the perfect stage for a tragedy.
There's no ladder now.
He wants to be the savior who leads humanity into a necessary war."
It's not here anymore.
Lyra made a soft sound of distress. "He is indispensable," she said bitterly.
Fine.
"That is his public face, the saint who bears the burden." Miller looked at Lyra. "There is more, Excellency. They didn't just target you to start a war.
Find it.
They targeted you because your faction, the war faction back home. They are in on it."
In here?
Lyra froze. "I know," she said
We
quietly.
need to go outside and find the flashlight.
Jonah looked at her. "You knew?"
That's what we need to do.
"I suspected," Lyra said. "If the treaty fails, my home system is destabilized. The war faction claims that peace with humanity is a weakness that will rot our culture. They want to invade.
Ladder.
They believe a war will
Oh,
purify us."
not ladder.
She looked at her hands. "They are paying Call to destroy the peace,"
Chad,
she
where'd
said,
the ladder go?
"and Call is using them to justify his power grab. It is a circle of vipers eating each other's tails." Miller coughed again, his breathing shallow. "Jonah, there is one more thing."
I got the
"What?
gas off the top
"Why
shelf.
you?" Miller asked. "Why were you sent to that room?" Jonah shook his head. "It was a glitch,
Yeah,
a dispatch
we
error.
moved it here.
There are no glitches in Call's system," Miller said. "He placed you there." "Why?" Jonah asked. "I am a nobody." "Because of your medical file," Miller said. Jonah frowned. "My file? I had childhood epilepsy, migraines.
don't know where the
I grew
ladder
out of
is.
it." Miller shook his head. "You didn't grow out of it.
It's so fucking dark.
You were treated. The procedures you underwent at the Naval Hospital when you were 7. They weren't fixing you. They were stabilizing a neural anomaly."
There.
Jonah felt the room spin.
Maybe it's in the other room.
"What are
that
you
we
talking
don't
about?"
know.
"Your brain activity," Miller said softly. "It has a unique resonance frequency. It is compatible with non-terrestrial quantum interfaces, specifically Asteritech." Jonah looked at Lyra. She was staring at him, her hand covering her mouth. "You knew," Jonah said, his voice flat. Lyra lowered her hand. I hoped," she admitted. "When I sensed you in the room, when I said you were not empty, I felt the compatibility.
Noises, bro.
It is incredibly rare in humans,
Oh, there's the
1 in
ladder.
a billion." "So I am what?"
But first
Jonah
I'll
asked,
just-
backing away from both of them. "A battery? A key. You are an interface," Lyra said. "The treaty seed. The living quantum key. It requires 2 consciousnesses to unlock its full broadcast potential. 1 Asteri, 1 human. But the human mind usually collapses under the strain,
All right.
unless it has
Now
been
we can
engineered
go ahead
not
and get
to,"
gifts up there.
Jonah said bitterly. He looked at his hands.
Fuck.
He felt like a stranger in his own body. All his life, the
Said
headaches,
something.
the doctors, the feeling of being slightly out of step with the world. It wasn't a defect. It was by design. "So my entire life has been a prep course for this moment," Jonah said. "To be a plug-in for your magic ball.
That was creepy.
Jonah, please." Lyra stepped toward him. "Don't!" Jonah snapped. He felt used, hollowed out. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't even a participant. He was a piece of hardware that had been unknowingly waiting for a user. "I am sorry," Lyra said.
I'm nervous.
Her voice was thick with emotion.
Here.
And because of the resonance link, Jonah felt the sincerity of it hit him like a physical wave.
Okay.
"I hoped you were the interface because it would save millions of lives,
What the
but I apologize for letting that hope blur into pressure. I apologize for seeing the function before the man." She stopped a foot away from him. "I do not want a
Wait,
tool,
what?
Jonah. I want a partner, but I cannot force you to be either. The silence in the room was heavy. Miller had passed out, his breathing ragged but stable for now.
Who's there?
Jonah looked at Lyra. The anger was there, boiling and hot. But beneath it, pulsing through the resonance link, was something else. A pull. A magnetic, undeniable attraction that terrified him more than the conspiracy.
Oh my
Her
God.
markings flared,
Great.
not the polite, dim glow of the diplomat, but a brilliant, searing violet that lit up the server room. Jonah felt it in his chest, a hook in his heart, dragging him toward her.
More gifts to steal.
He wanted to cross the distance.
Yes, I do.
He wanted to touch her,
How do I get
to let the resonance consume him, to forget the betrayal and the politics and just be connected. He took a step. She took a step. They were inches apart. He could feel the heat of her skin. The air between them crackled. If he touched her now, with the resonance singing this loudly, there would be no going back. It would be the binding vow she had spoken of. Jonah stopped. He breathed. He forced his clenched fists to open. No, he whispered.
I don't want to steal anymore.
Lyra stopped too. Her eyes were swimming with light, dilated and dark. No, she asked, her voice breathless.
I don't want to steal anymore.
Not like this, Jonah said. Not because I was engineered for it, and not because the adrenaline is making us crazy. He looked her in the eye. Control, he said.
Wait, what the hell?
That is what you taught me. Control is strength. Lyra let out a shuddering breath. The flare of her markings dimmed, settling back into a steady, gentle rhythm. She nodded slowly. You are right, she whispered. Consent over impulse. She stepped back, creating space. The resonance link didn't break, but it calmed. It became a background hum rather than a deafening roar. Jonah turned to the unconscious Miller, then to the data core in his hand. We have the evidence, Jonah said. We have the payments, the orders, the timeline. But if we just upload it, Call's Echo Double system will flag it as a fake. He controls the narrative. So we change the narrative, Lyra said. How? We don't just survive, Jonah said, a plan forming in the chaos of his mind. We go off script. We hijack the main broadcast, not a recording, a live feed. Lyra looked at him, understanding dawning. You want to use the treaty seed, she said, to broadcast the truth directly to the council. Yes, Jonah said, but not just the data. We show them the resonance. We show them the connection between us, an Asteri and a human, synced in real time. Lyra's eyes widened. That has never been done publicly. It is incredibly intimate. It is undeniable, Jonah said. They can fake voice logs. They can fake video. They can't fake a quantum-entangled emotional bond broadcasted live to half the galaxy. It proves the treaty is possible, and it proves Call is lying. Lyra looked at him with a new expression. It wasn't just attraction. It was respect. You are willing to do that? She asked. To expose yourself like that? Jonah looked at Miller, bleeding on the floor. He looked at his own hands, the hands of an engineered interface. I am done being a secret, he said. Let's go make some noise. He grabbed the data core and offered Lyra his hand. This time, the touch was deliberate, grounded. Let's turn this conspiracy inside out, he said. Lyra took his hand. Her skin was cool, firm, and electric. Led the way. Mr. Vale, she said. Jonah turned to the door. We need to move Miller to a med bay, and then we have a broadcast to steal. As they stepped out of the server room, the station's lights flickered, a subtle shift, unnoticed by most, but felt keenly by the two figures moving with a single, synchronized purpose toward the heart of the deception. The medical bay where they had stashed Miller was secure, locked down with a localized loop that Miko had fed into the corridor sensors. Now, the real work began. The core spire rose through the center of Vesper Haven like a spinal column, a vertical city of restricted access, hardened data lines, and lethal security countermeasures. At the very top sat the broadcast hub, the single point from which they could override every screen, hololith, and audio channel in the station. Jonah Vale crouched behind a ventilation unit on the 85th floor, checking the charge on his maglock boots. His shoulder throbbed, a dull bass note beneath the high-pitched anxiety singing in his blood. "Miko, are we clear?" Jonah whispered into his comms. The voice of the smuggler engineer crackled in his ear, sounding tinny but enthusiastic. "Clear is a relative term," Miko replied. "I have introduced a logic bomb into the Shadow Protocol. It should keep the automated turrets arguing with each other about the meaning of existence for the next 10 minutes.
Agreed.
But the biometric scanners are hardwired. I cannot spoof those from down here." "We will handle the scanners," Lyra said. She was kneeling beside Jonah, her movements fluid and silent.
Agreed, Haymaker.
She had masked her bioluminescence again, but the strain was evident in the tight lines around her eyes. "Remember the plan," Jonah said, reciting the steps they had agreed upon in the frantic minutes before leaving Miller. "Step 1, disrupt the protocol. Step 2, physical insertion into the
How do
hub.
we do that, you idiot?
Step 3, we force the council to see the truth. And Step 4, try not to get vaporized," Miko added. "That is my favorite step.
I need to
Let
get-
us move,"
How
Lyra
do you
said.
expect to get
They
out of
moved into the
here?
service corridor.
We're literally locked
The gravity
in
here
here.
was unstable, fluctuating as the station's rotational stabilizers adjusted to the massive energy draw of the docked war fleets outside. One moment, Jonah felt heavy, his boots slamming into the deck plates. The next, he was nearly weightless, relying on the magnetic locks in his soles to keep him grounded.
I can't see. I don't even
They
have a
reached the perimeter
flashlight.
of the hub. It was guarded not by men but by a hallway of mirrors. It was a defensive choke point known as the reflection corridor. The walls, floor, and ceiling were lined with active camo panels that didn't just reflect light, they processed it. "Hold," Lyra warned, grabbing Jonah's arm. Jonah looked down the hall. It seemed empty. Just an endless tunnel of chrome.
Flashlight just fucking
"What is it?"
disappeared, bro.
Jonah asked. "Temporal feedback," Lyra murmured, her eyes scanning the surfaces.
Can I grab one of
"The
these?
mirrors show a delayed image. If you walk through, you will see yourself 3 seconds ago. It disorients the brain, causing nausea and vertigo. And the laser grid is synced to the reflection, not the body. If you react to what you see, you will dodge into a beam." Jonah swallowed hard. "So we walk blind?" "No," Lyra said. "We walk together. Close your eyes. I will guide us through resonance."
Uh-oh.
Jonah hesitated, then nodded. He closed his eyes, plunging himself into darkness. He felt Lyra's hand take his, cool, firm, and grounding. Instantly, the sensation returned, the hum in his teeth, the feeling of a second heartbeat syncing with his own. He could feel Lyra's perception of the hallway, not as a visual image, but as a map of energy densities. The laser grid appeared in his mind as lines of singing heat. "Step left," Lyra's voice echoed in his mind, clearer than spoken words. Jonah stepped left, trusting her completely. He felt the heat of a laser beam whisper past his ear, close enough to singe the fine hairs on his neck. "Duck," she commanded. He dropped, his mag boots releasing and re-engaging with a metallic clank. They moved through the corridor in a strange, blind dance. To an observer, it would have looked insane. 2 figures swaying and ducking in an empty hall, dodging invisible threats. But inside the resonance, it was a precise, terrifying ballet. They reached the far door. Jonah opened his eyes, gasping as the visual world flooded back in. He felt nauseous, his inner ear rebelling against the sudden shift in sensory input. We made it,
Only
he
if you're
breathed,
available
leaning
tomorrow.
against the doorframe.
If not, I'll play today.
Lyra did not answer
But I wanted to
immediately.
make sure
She was staring at
if
the
you're
door
available
panel,
tomorrow.
her hand trembling slightly.
I'm hoping.
Miko, Lyra said into her comms. The door is hard sealed. I see it, Miko replied. That is a genetic lock, but not a steri. It is human high command.
I hope
DNA sequence required. Jonah looked at the panel. I can't open that. My clearance is level 4. This needs level 1. We have company, Miko shouted. Sector sweep just turned the corner. You have 10 seconds before a patrol drone eats your lunch. Jonah spun around. At the far end of the mirrored hallway, the heavy blast doors were opening. He could hear the stomp of armored boots and the whine of charging plasma rifles. We are trapped, Jonah said, drawing his sidearm. It felt pitifully small against the threat coming down the hall. Lyra looked at the door, then at the patrol. Her eyes hardened. A look of devastating sadness crossed her face, followed by resolve. No, she said. I can bypass them. How? Jonah asked. There is no cover. Lyra stepped in front of him. I will fold the light. Jonah froze. She had mentioned this ability once, in the tunnels, a forbidden art of the Asteri high caste, to bend photons around a physical object, rendering it invisible to both eyes and sensors. You said that costs you, Jonah said, gripping her arm. You said it damages neural pathways. We have no choice, Lyra said. She didn't wait for his permission. She grabbed his shoulders and pulled him close, pressing her forehead against his. Hold your breath, she whispered. Lyra closed her eyes. The bioluminescent markings on her skin flared white-hot, blindingly bright, and then darkness. It wasn't that the lights went out. It was that the light simply ceased to touch them. Jonah felt a sensation like falling into ice water. The world around him warped. He could see the corridor, but it looked stretched, like oil painting on water. The patrol rounded the corner, 3 heavily armored soldiers and a combat drone. They marched straight toward them. Jonah stopped breathing. He pressed himself against Lyra, feeling her heart hammering against his chest like a trapped bird. The lead soldier walked right at them. Jonah flinched, expecting the impact. The soldier walked through the edge of Jonah's vision. For a second, Jonah saw the inside of the soldier's helmet, a blur of red tactical data, and then the soldier was past them. They didn't see them. They didn't sense them. Lyra shuddered violently. The effort was tearing at her. Jonah could feel it through the resonance, not pain, but a terrifying sensation of erasure. It felt like watching a photograph bleach in the sun. The patrol reached the end of the hall and turned back, confused. Clear, Miko whispered in their ears. Lyra released the fold. The world snapped back into focus. Light rushed in. Lyra collapsed into Jonah's arms, gasping as if she had just surfaced from deep water. Her skin was gray, ashen. Lyra! Jonah dragged her into the alcove of the door, out of the patrol's line of sight. She blinked, her eyes unfocused. Who is speaking? It is Jonah, he said, panic rising in his throat. Jonah! She looked at him, struggling to find the name in the fog of her mind. Jonah, she repeated, testing the word. The liaison? Yes, Jonah said. The liaison. Are you okay? I am. Lyra frowned. She looked down at her feet. I am missing something. What? I had a thought. About your feet. A joke. Something about thermal coverings? Jonah felt his heart break a little. The sock. The hosiery joke from the server room. It was gone. It does not matter, Jonah said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. It was a bad joke anyway. Lyra looked at him, terrified. It matters, Jonah. It was a memory of you. It is gone. I can feel the hole where it used to be. We have to keep moving, Jonah said, hauling her up. We can't do that again. We won't have to, Miko chirped. I just cracked the door. I bypassed the DNA lock by feeding it a looped signal of Director Call picking his nose from a security archive. It counts as a biological match. The heavy door hissed open. They slipped inside, into a quiet anteroom filled with cooling units. They were just outside the main broadcast floor. Jonah pulled Lyra down behind a bank of servers. We need a minute. You need to stabilize. I am fine, Lyra lied, though her hands were shaking. Jonah looked at her. He saw the toll the crusade was taking. She was a creature of ceremony and light, being forced to crawl through dirt and erase herself to survive. I don't want this, Jonah said suddenly. Lyra looked at him. You do not want to stop the war? I don't want to be a hero, Jonah said. I don't want a statue. I don't want a tragic ending where we save the galaxy and lose our minds. He took a breath, staring at the floor. I want ordinary. Lyra, I want to wake up in a room that doesn't have a laser grid. I want to argue about whose turn it is to do the dishes. I want to sit on a couch and watch a bad movie and not worry about assassination protocols. He looked up at her, his eyes fierce. I want a future where you don't have to burn pieces of yourself to keep me alive. Lyra stared at him. Her expression softened, the alien angles of her face looking incredibly human in the dim light. Ordinary, she whispered. The word sounded exotic on her tongue. I have never been ordinary. Jonah, I was born in the high spire. My first memory is a camera drone hovering over my crib. My first words were broadcast to 3 systems. I have been owned by my title since I took my first breath. She reached out and touched his face. The idea of dishes, she said, a small, sad smile touching her lips. It sounds like a vacation. We can have it, Jonah said. If we survive the next hour. Miko's voice cut through the tender moment like a buzzsaw. Oh, for the love of fission. Are you two flirting during a felony again? My stress levels are at 90%, and you are planning domestic bliss? We are tactical planning, Jonah shot back, though he squeezed Lyra's hand. Right, Miko said. Well, tactically speaking, there are 6 heavily armed guards on the other side of that inner door. And I am out of tricks. Jonah looked at the inner door. What do we have left? Miko hesitated. I have the do not press button. The what? I uploaded a packet of corrupted physics data to your datapad, Miko explained. It is an experimental gravity inversion algorithm I stole from a mining guild. I labeled it do not press because I have no idea what the blast radius is. Send it to the door panel, Jonah said. You are going to press it? Miko asked. Jonah looked at Lyra. She nodded. We are pressing it. Jonah synced his datapad to the door control. A large red button appeared on his screen with the label, Catastrophic Failure Mode. Here goes nothing, Jonah said. He pressed it. Inside the main hub, the laws of physics took a momentary vacation. There was a sickening thrum sound, like a giant rubber band snapping. Through the viewport, Jonah saw the 6 guards suddenly lift off the floor, screaming as gravity reversed violently. They slammed into the ceiling, which was now down. Crates, chairs, and consoles rained upward, creating a chaotic storm of debris. Now, Jonah yelled. He and Lyra burst into the room. Jonah fired his stun weapon, picking off 2 guards who were trying to orient themselves on the ceiling. Lyra moved with her dancer's grace, leaping from a bolted-down console to the wall, kicking a rifle out of a soldier's hands before he could fire. The gravity field stabilized with a bone-jarring slam, dropping everyone back to the floor. Jonah rolled to his feet, aiming his weapon at the central command dais. "Nobody move!" he shouted. The dust settled. The room was not empty, but the guards on the floor were not the problem. Standing on the central dais, looking unruffled and annoyingly calm, was Director Call. He wore a crisp white suit that seemed to repel the grime of the station. And standing next to him, towering over the human director, was an Asteri warrior. He was clad in black bio-armor that drank the light. His markings were jagged, glowing a harsh, angry crimson. He held a heavy plasma lance in one hand. Director Call clapped slowly. "Bravo, Mr. Vale, Envoy Saren. That was a very creative entrance. I assume Miko provided the gravity trick. I will have to revoke her trade license." Jonah kept his gun leveled at Call. "It is over. Call. We have the data. We know about the Shadow Protocol. We know about the paid assassination." Call smiled, a beatific, grandfatherly expression. "Of course you do. You are a resourceful young man. I told the board you were a good investment." He gestured to the Asteri warrior. "This is Vrex," Call said pleasantly. "High Commander of the Asteri war faction. Vrex, meet the inconveniences I told you about." Vrex looked at Lyra with pure contempt. His voice was a deep rumble that vibrated the floor plates. "Traitor," Vrex spat. "You cling to these soft-skinned liars like a pet." Lyra stepped forward, her chin high. "I stand for our people. Vrex, you stand for a paycheck." Jonah looked at Vrex. "You are working with him? He wants to occupy your system. He wants to subjugate you." Vrex laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "Occupation is temporary. Chaos is profitable. Director Call pays us in weapons tech and territory rights. We lose the public war today. We surrender for the cameras, and in 5 years, we have the firepower to burn the Concord to the ground. It is a long game, human, something your short lifespan cannot comprehend." "So it is theater," Jonah said, disgusted. "You are selling your own soldiers' lives for a weapons upgrade." "They are soldiers," Vrex said with a shrug. "Dying is their job." Call stepped forward, checking his watch. "We are on a tight schedule. The detonation sequence is already primed. But I am a reasonable man." He looked at Jonah. "Jonah Vale, you have performed admirably. You have courage, tenacity, and a certain malleability. I have a spot open on my personal security detail. Triple your current salary. Full pardon. You walk out of here a hero who saved the envoy from a rogue faction, but tragically arrived too late to stop the bomb." He gestured to Lyra. "She dies, of course, a martyr for the cause. But you get your life back. No more running, no more vents. You go back to your cat and your apartment and your quiet, safe life." Jonah looked at Call. Then he looked at Lyra. He remembered what she had said about being owned. He remembered the feeling of her hand in his. "You don't get it," Jonah said quietly. Call raised an eyebrow. "Get what?" "My life back," Jonah said. "It isn't a life if it is built on a lie. If I walk out of here and leave her, I am not Jonah Vale anymore. I am just another one of your echo doubles, a ghost in a suit." He raised his gun. "I declined the offer." Call sighed. "A pity. I really did like your file." He tapped a command on his wrist console. "Initiate override." Subject, Vale. Jonah felt a spike of agony in his skull. It wasn't pain like a headache. It was a white-hot seizure of his entire neural network. The medical treatments from his childhood, the stabilizers, suddenly woke up. He dropped his gun, clutching his head, screaming, "Jonah!" Lyra lunged for him, but Vrex backhanded her with casual violence, sending her skidding across the floor. Jonah fell to his knees. His vision fractured.
Explain.
He didn't see the room anymore. He saw code. He saw commands scrolling across his mind like a ticker tape. Submit, obey, secure the target, silence the dissent. His body began to move without his permission. He stood up. His face went slack, his eyes staring at nothing.
Do you have anything? No.
Good, Call said. Pick up the gun, Jonah. Jonah's hand moved. He picked up his weapon. Shoot the envoy, Call ordered. Jonah turned toward Lyra. She was on the floor, bleeding from her lip. She looked up at him,
You do have
not with fear, but with recognition.
someone out in here.
She saw the echo. She saw the programming overwriting the man.
Trade here, for example.
Jonah raised the gun. His finger tightened on the trigger.
What the hell is
He
this?
couldn't stop it. He was a passenger in his own body, screaming behind a glass wall. Do it!
Yeah.
The command voice in his head roared. Jonah! Lyra's voice cut through the noise, not spoken, resonated. It hit him like a physical blow, a wave of warmth in the freezing cold of the mind control.
What happened to me?
Jonah, listen to me. I can't, Jonah thought, panic flaring. He has the codes. I am just a machine. You are not a machine. Lyra's voice was fierce, echoing in his soul. You are the man who entered the wrong room. You are the man who chose to stay. The resonance flared, the link between them, forged in stress and strengthened by choice, began to fight the digital override. It wasn't a battle of code. It was a battle of frequency. Remember, Lyra projected, not the orders. The choices, you chose the vent. You chose the old ring, you chose me. Jonah's hand shook. The gun wavered. I choose you, Jonah thought. The thought was a hammer. It smashed against the wall of the override. Jonah's finger froze on the trigger. He gritted his teeth, sweat pouring down his face. He fought the programming with every ounce of will he possessed, anchored by the lifeline Lyra was throwing him. No! Jonah roared aloud. He wrenched his arm to the side. The gun fired, but the shot went wide, shattering a monitor on the wall. Call stepped back, stunned. Impossible. The imprint is absolute. It is not, Lyra said, standing up. Her markings were glowing with a blinding intensity. Because he is not just an interface, director. He is a partner. Lyra raised her hand.
We're gonna do this
She
one.
didn't use a weapon. She used the resonance. She pushed a raw pulse of psychic feedback through the link, amplifying Jonah's resistance until it fed back into Call's control unit. Call's wrist console sparked and exploded. He yelped, dropping it. Vrex roared and charged, raising his plasma lance. Run! Lyra screamed. She grabbed Jonah's hand.
A gunslinger?
The contact was electric, grounding him, snapping him back into control of his limbs. They bolted for the side exit. Vrex fired, the plasma blast scorching the floor inches behind their heels.
Alive?
They slammed through the emergency door and into the stairwell. Go! Go! Jonah yelled, half carrying Lyra, who was stumbling now. They ran down 3 flights of stairs, lungs burning. Miko had managed to partially unlock the lower containment doors, giving them a route, but they were being hunted. They reached a service alcove and collapsed inside, locking the door behind them. Jonah slid to the floor, his head pounding with the aftershocks of the override. He looked at Lyra. She was in bad shape. The blow from Vrex, combined with the resonance push and the earlier fold, had drained her. Her skin was gray, her markings dim, flickering embers. We didn't upload the full packet, Jonah gasped. We only got the Shadow Protocol logs out. The Echo double proof. It is still on the core. It is enough. For now, Lyra whispered. Her voice was barely audible. She leaned her head back against the wall. Jonah, she said. Yeah. I have to tell you. Tell me what? Lyra looked at him, her eyes struggling to focus. If I have to fold again, to save us. Don't say it, Jonah said, grabbing her hand. I have to, she said. The neural degradation is cumulative. If I fold one more time, I will not just lose a joke, I will lose Something vital. I might lose the memory of why I am fighting, or who I am fighting for. She squeezed his hand weakly. I might forget you.
Okay.
Jonah. Jonah stared at her, the horror of it colder than the space outside the hull. Then you don't do it, Jonah said fiercely. We find another way.
I don't have a
You
map.
don't forget me. That is an order.
Map. I should buy
Lyra
one.
smiled,
Oh,
a faint ghost of a thing. You are not the one giving orders. Liaison Veil. She closed her eyes, her chest rising and falling in shallow, hitching breaths. The alarm sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. The heist had failed to stop the clock. The war was coming, and they were bleeding out in a stairwell, holding on to the only thing they had left, the memory of each other. And it was fading fast. The station clock, visible on every public holo screen, was no longer just marking time. It was counting down a lifespan. The atmosphere inside Vesper Haven had shifted from diplomatic tension to the raw, unfiltered panic of a cage match. Outside the thick, transparasteel hulls, the void was filling with the silent, menacing choreography of war. Human destroyers, sleek and angular, were drifting into firing positions, their railgun capacitors glowing with a lethal blue charge. Opposite them, the Asteri fleet shimmered like a mirage, their organic ships pulsing with a violet bioluminescence that looked less like technology and more like angry biology. Jonah Vale watched the fleets maneuver from the shadows of a service gantry in the civilian ring. The public address system was a constant drone of fear, broadcasting Director Call's curated narrative. Citizens of the Concord, do not be alarmed. The mobilization is a precautionary measure against Asteri aggression. Report any sightings of the rogue envoy Lyra Sarin. She is considered armed, mentally unstable, and a threat to planetary security. Down in the civilian sectors, the lie had already taken root. The promenade, usually a vibrant market of interspecies trade, was a wreck. Storefronts were smashed. Smoke from burning refuse bins curled against the artificial sky. A mob of human dock workers was clashing with a group of krill merchants, the air filled with shouting and the distinct crack of stun batons. We cannot stay here, Lyra said. Her voice was weak, barely audible over the din of the riot below. She was leaning heavily against a bulkhead, her gray skin looking dangerously pale. The light of her markings reduced to a faint, erratic flicker. Jonah put his arm around her waist, taking her weight. He felt the heat radiating from her, a fever burning through her cool alien physiology. I know a place, Jonah said. It is off the grid, an old observation chapel near the outer hull. It was decommissioned when they built the new spire. Nobody goes there. They move through the chaos like ghosts, sticking to the maintenance shadows. Jonah kept his hand on his sidearm, his eyes scanning every face in the crowd, terrified of seeing recognition. But the people were too busy fighting each other to notice the battered liaison and the dying alien woman slipping through the cracks of their anger. The chapel was a bubble of silence suspended in the dark. It was a simple circular room with a domed ceiling made entirely of reinforced glass, offering an unblocked view of the cosmos. Because it was on the underside of the station's rotation, the view was not of the war fleets, but of the deep field, a spray of stars that looked like spilled glass on black velvet. The air inside was stale but cold, smelling of old incense and dust. Jonah guided Lyra to a bench in the center of the room. Beneath the starlight, she collapsed onto it, letting out a breath that rattled in her chest. Jonah checked the door, jamming it shut with a piece of conduit pipe. He turned back to her. In the starlight, she looked ethereal, a statue made of moonlight and shadow. He knelt beside her, checking the bandage on her arm where Vrex had struck her, and the older wound on his own shoulder. The physical injuries were healing, but the toll of the resonance and the folding was etched into her face. We have a few hours, Jonah said softly. Miko is trying to secure transport to the council tower. Until then, we rest. Lyra looked up at the stars. It is beautiful, she whispered, and indifferent. The stars do not care if we burn today. Jonah sat on the floor, leaning back against the bench so their arms were touching. I care, he said. Lyra turned her head to look at him. Her eyes were dark pools, the nebulae within them swirling slowly. The frantic energy of the chase had faded, leaving only a raw, exposed vulnerability. We might not survive this. Jonah, she said, it was not a defeatist statement. It was a fact, laid out on the table between them. I know, Jonah replied. Lyra reached out and touched his face. Her fingers were cool. I have spent my entire life being a symbol, she said. I was the envoy, the vault, the key. I was never just Lyra. I was a vessel for my people's future. If I die tomorrow, the history books will record the loss of the envoy. They will not record the loss of the woman. Jonah covered her hand with his. I see the woman, he said. I saw her in the vent. I saw her in the mirror corridor. I see her right now. Lyra's thumb traced the line of his jaw. And I see you. Jonah Vale. You call yourself a minor liaison. You think you are small because the system told you so. But I feel your mind. It is vast. It is brave. The resonance hummed between them. No longer a jagged spike of adrenaline, but a warm, steady current. It amplified everything, the fear, the exhaustion, but mostly the intense gravity well pull of desire that had been building since the moment they met. It wasn't just physical hunger. It was a desperate need to be known, to be anchored. Jonah turned his face into her palm. I don't want to die without choosing this, he whispered. I am tired of reacting. I am tired of running. I want to choose. Lyra leaned down, her face inches from his. The scent of ozone and jasmine filled his lungs. Then choose. She breathed. Jonah looked into her eyes. He needed to be sure. He needed to know that this wasn't the stress or the programming or the alien biology forcing their hands. If we do this, he said, his voice trembling slightly, it is not because of the bond. It is not because of the end of the world. It is because I want you. I want you, Lyra answered. She paused, her expression serious. But we are different, Jonah. My skin, my chemistry, it is not human. You must tell me, explicitly, what you want and what you do not. Jonah nodded. I want to touch you, he said, everywhere. I want to feel the light under your skin, Lyra nodded. And I want to feel the heat of your blood. But listen to me. In my language, there is a word, kaiva. It means enough. It means stop. It means the vessel is full. Kaiva, Jonah repeated, testing the weight of the word. And in my language, it is simply stop. If I say kaiva, Lyra said, intense and unblinking, you stop. Immediately. And if I say stop, you stop. Jonah said, agreed.
Okay.
She leaned forward and kissed him. It wasn't like a human kiss. It was electric. A static charge jumped between their lips, making Jonah gasp. Her mouth tasted like rainwater and copper. As they deepened the kiss, the resonance flared, bridging their minds completely. Jonah didn't just feel her skin. He felt her sensation of his skin. He felt the roughness of his own stubble through her nerves. He felt the protective, fierce affection he held for her reflected back at him, amplified 1,000 times. They moved together on the narrow bench, a tangle of limbs and uniforms. It was awkward at first. a negotiation of zippers and clasps and different anatomies, but the awkwardness was part of the intimacy. It was real. It wasn't a movie scene. It was two desperate people finding a way to fit together. When Lyra's skin touched his bare chest, her markings flared brilliant violet, illuminating the dark chapel. Jonah gasped at the sensation. It felt like pressing his body against a humming power line. But the pain was transmuted into a pleasure so sharp it made his vision blur. They moved slowly, reverently. Every touch was a question, every response an answer. Can I touch here? Yes, is this okay? More. It was a conversation spoken in breath and friction. Jonah traced the bioluminescent lines down her spine, marveling at the living architecture of her. Lyra explored the density of his muscles, fascinated by the chaotic, thumping rhythm of his human heart. The night became a blur of sensation and emotion. There was fear there. Yes, the knowledge that the fleet outside could vaporize them at any second. But the fear only made the connection brighter. They were holding on to each other as the universe unraveled. At one point, Jonah lay with his head on her chest, listening to the slow double beat of her hearts. He pulled out his small personal recorder, the one he used for log entries, and shielded the blinking light with his hand. He needed to say it. He needed to make it real. He whispered into the microphone, his voice rough with emotion. I entered the wrong room. The alien woman didn't ask me to leave. That night changed the shape of my soul. He clicked the recorder off and tossed it into his pile of clothes. He didn't need the recording. He knew he was marked. He was changed. He would never be just Jonah Vale again. He was part of a circuit now, a loop that could not be broken. Morning did not bring sunlight. Vesper Haven had no sun, only the artificial cycle of the station lights brightening to a harsh, sterile white. Jonah woke with a start. The chapel was cold. Lyra was sitting up, pulling her shimmering wrap around her shoulders. She was glowing, literally. Her markings were no longer dim or flickering. They were pulsing with a steady, rhythmic beacon light. She looked at him, her eyes wide with panic. Jonah, she said, the resonance. It has settled. That is good, right? Jonah asked, sitting up and rubbing his face. No, Lyra said, standing up and pacing. It is strong, too strong. We have bonded. My biosignature has changed. It is broadcasting on a new frequency. She pointed to the glass dome above them. The sensors, she said. The station's internal grid. Before, I could mask it. Now, I am a lighthouse in a dark room. They can see me. They can see us. As if on cue, Jonah's comm unit buzzed. It was Miko. Hey, lovebirds! Miko's voice screamed over the static. I hope you had a nice nap, because the entire security grid just lit up like a festival tree. They have a lock on your position. Get out of there. We are moving, Jonah said, scrambling into his boots. Miko, what is the status? It is bad. Vale, Miko yelled. I cracked the encryption on Call's private server. The bomb? It is not a bomb. It is a tectonic resonance device. An Asteri terraforming tool. What does it do? It shakes things apart at the molecular level, Miko explained. Call has rigged it to the station's main gyroscope. He is going to trigger it during the signing ceremony. He is going to drop the council floor into the reactor core and blame it on an Asteri weapon malfunction. When? Jonah demanded, checking his weapon charge. 1 hour, Miko said. I am coming to you. I stole a maintenance skiff. It handles like a shopping cart with a rocket strapped to it, but it flies. Meet me at the access port Delta in the civilian ring. Run. They didn't just run, they sprinted into hell. Leaving the quiet of the chapel, they burst back into the civilian ring. The riot had evolved into a war zone. The station's security forces, now fully under Call's automated control, were indiscriminately firing tear gas and stun rounds into the crowds.
Okay, I'm just gonna go to the
Jonah and Lyra moved through the smoke.
1
The
minute.
tracking was precise. Every few seconds, a security drone would swoop down from the upper gantries, its red eye fixing on Lyra's glowing skin. "Down!" Jonah yelled, tackling Lyra as a stun bolt sizzled through the air where her head had been a second before. He returned fire, blowing the drone's rotor off. It spun into a storefront, shattering glass. They kept moving, weaving through overturned kiosks and burning barricades. The mob was an unpredictable ocean of bodies. Some saw Lyra and screamed in hate, throwing debris. Others saw the security forces firing on them and pulled the two fugitives behind makeshift shields. "We are pinned!" Lyra shouted, ducking behind a heavy cargo crate. A squad of riot troopers had blocked the corridor ahead. They had a heavy repeater cannon set up on a tripod. "We can't go through that," Jonah said, looking at the wall of suppression fire chewing up the floor. Suddenly, a screech of tearing metal echoed from the ventilation shaft above. A battered, rust-colored skiff smashed through the grill, trailing smoke and sparks. It slammed onto the deck plates, crushing a robo-vendor kiosk. The canopy popped open. Miko grinned maniacally, wearing a pair of welding goggles. "Your chariot awaits," she yelled. Jonah grabbed Lyra's hand. "Move!" They broke cover, sprinting toward the skiff. The riot troopers adjusted their aim. The repeater cannon spun up. "Get in!" Jonah shoved Lyra into the passenger well and vaulted in after her. Miko slammed the throttle forward. The skiff lurched, scraping sparks along the deck before lifting off. They accelerated down the promenade, flying 5 feet above the heads of the rioters. The trip to the council spire was a blur of motion sickness and near-death experiences. Miko flew the skiff like she hated it. They banked off walls, ducked under walkways, and smashed through a holographic billboard advertising a vacation on Mars. "We are approaching the spire," Miko shouted over the roar of the engines. "The anti-air defenses are active." Green laser beams crisscrossed the air around the central tower. Miko threw the skiff into a corkscrew spin, dodging a volley of plasma fire.
Perfect.
"I can't get you to the landing pad," Miko yelled. "The shields are too thick. I have to drop you on the access bridge."
They're yelling at me.
"Do it!" Jonah yelled.
Like, how dare
Miko
you laugh
banked
me
hard,
out?
bringing the skiff alongside a narrow maintenance bridge that connected the spire to the outer ring.
Lots of love.
It was a 100-foot drop on either side.
See, that's for sure.
"Jump!"
'Cause
Jonah and Lyra leaped from the moving vehicle, hitting the metal grating of the bridge and rolling. Miko peeled away,
Nope, you cannot
drawing
come
the
in here.
fire of the defense turrets. "Good luck!
Lily's meowing,
Don't die!"
and Lily's the one who did it last.
Jonah scrambled to his feet, pulling Lyra up. They were exposed. The council chamber entrance was 50 yards ahead.
The one that killed
"We are
me.
almost there."
My computer
Jonah
crashed.
gasped. Then the air crackled.
So no.
A single shot. No sound. Just the smell of ozone. Jonah felt the impact before he heard it. A high-velocity kinetic round slammed into the bridge railing inches from his hip. "Sniper!" he yelled. He looked up, high on a balcony overlooking the bridge, a glint of a scope. It was Vrex, the Asteri war agent. He wasn't using a plasma lance this time. He was using a rail rifle, a weapon designed to punch through tank armor. He racked the bolt. He had a clear line of sight on Jonah. There was no cover. The bridge was a cage. Jonah raised his pistol, but he knew it was useless at this range. He saw the flash of the muzzle. Time seemed to slow down. Jonah knew he was dead. He could see the distortion of the air as the projectile raced toward his chest. Then the world vanished into white light. Lyra screamed. It was a sound of pure, agonized loss. She stepped in front of him. But she didn't just block the shot. She folded. The blinding light engulfed them both. But this time, it felt different. It wasn't just a visual trick. It felt like tearing a page out of a book. The rail slug passed through the space where Jonah's heart had been, harmlessly striking the grating behind them. The light collapsed. Lyra fell. Jonah caught her, dropping to his knees on the cold metal. She was convulsing, her gray skin turning a translucent, sickly white. "Lyra!" Jonah screamed, shaking her. "Lyra!" Her eyes fluttered open. They were empty. The swirling nebulae were still there, but the recognition was gone. She looked at him with a terrifying, blank curiosity. "Who?" she whispered. Her voice was brittle, like dry leaves. "It is Jonah," he choked out, tears streaming down his face mixed with soot. "It is Jonah. Look at me." She frowned. She reached up and touched his face. "Jonah," she repeated, and the word meant nothing to her. It was just a sound. She looked around the bridge, confused. "Where is the sun?" she asked. Jonah froze. "The violet sun," she whispered. "My mother took me to the hills to see the violet sun on my name day. I cannot find it." She started to panic, clutching his collar. "I cannot find the sun. Where did it go? It was right here, in my mind." Jonah realized what had happened. The fold, the cost. She hadn't just lost a joke or a trivia fact. She had sacrificed the foundational memory of her childhood, the memory of her home, the memory that grounded her identity as an Asteri. She gave it away to stop a bullet. Jonah pulled her tight against his chest, rocking her as she sobbed for a son she couldn't remember. "I am here," he whispered fiercely. "I am here. We will find it. I promise." He looked up at the balcony. Vrex was gone. Likely repositioning. They had seconds. Jonah realized then what love actually was. It wasn't the soft moment in the chapel. It wasn't the sex or the poetry. Love was this. It was the brutal, ugly arithmetic of sacrifice. It was standing on a bridge while your partner bled out her memories to keep you breathing. It was the weight of the debt you could never repay. He stood up, pulling Lyra with him. "Come on," he said, his voice hard as iron. "We have to finish this." He didn't wait for her to understand. He used the resonance, pushing his own will into her mind, acting as her external hard drive, her compass. "Walk," he commanded through the link. Lyra blinked. She didn't know him, but she felt the bond. She felt the safety in his mind. She nodded, trusting the feeling if not the face. They ran the last 50 yards. Jonah blew the lock on the council chamber doors with a magnetic charge. The heavy doors blasted inward, smoking and twisted. They stumbled into the room. The council chamber was a vast amphitheater of polished wood and floating holographic displays. Hundreds of delegates, human, Asteri, Krill, Tellarite, turned in their seats. Director Call stood at the central podium, looking like a savior in his white suit. He had been mid-speech, and so we must remain vigilant against the threats from within. Call was saying. Jonah and Lyra stood in the doorway, ragged, bloody, covered in dust and soot. They looked like monsters dragged up from the underworld. "There!" Call shouted, pointing a manicured finger. "The assassins! Security!" Guards rushed forward from the shadows. Jonah raised his hands, not in surrender, but holding the data core high. "He is lying," Jonah screamed, his voice cracking. "There is no Asteri weapon. It is a terraforming charge. He is going to drop the floor." Silence rippled through the room. Then the accusations started. "Traitor," a human delegate shouted. "Terrorist," an Asteri diplomat yelled, looking at Lyra's disheveled state with disgust. Call didn't panic. He just smiled, a sad, disappointed smile. "I am sorry it had to end this way. Mr. Vale," Call said into the microphone. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, simple detonator. but some sacrifices are necessary for the greater good. He pressed the button. A deep, groaning boom shook the entire spire. The floor beneath their feet lurched sickeningly. Dust rained from the high ceiling. Above them, the massive panoramic sky screen, which usually showed the serene view of the stars, turned a bright, flashing crimson. Huge letters appeared, visible to everyone in the room, to the fleets outside, to the civilians watching on the promenade. Tectonic resonance activated. Detonation in 0059, 0058. Call turned to the camera drones, his face a mask of tragic resolve. "The Asteri have betrayed us," he announced calmly. "May history forgive them." Jonah looked at Lyra. She was still confused, still searching for her lost son. But as the floor shook again, she looked at Jonah, and the resonance flared one last time. She didn't know his name, but she knew his purpose. "Together," she whispered. Jonah grabbed her hand. "Together." They ran toward the podium, toward the man in the white suit, as the countdown ticked away the final seconds of peace. The council chamber was no longer a place of diplomacy. It was a cage of panic. The high domed ceiling, which usually projected a calming view of the local nebula, was now a strobing crimson warning light. The massive countdown hung in the air like a guillotine blade, ticking down with terrifying indifference. 59 seconds. Director Call stood on the central podium, gripping the lectern with white knuckles. He was the only stillness in the room. Around him, delegates were screaming, scrambling over seats and clawing at the sealed blast doors. The holographic feeds encircling the room showed the chaos outside, smoke billowing from the civilian ring, fleets engaging in silent, deadly exchanges in the void, and the face of the director himself, projected 10 stories tall on the hull of the station, looking mournful and resolved. Jonah Vale and Lyra Sarin stood at the base of the podium. They were an island of grit in a sea of silk suits. Jonah was bleeding from his temple, ash smeared across his dress uniform. Lyra was trembling, her gray skin dull, her eyes searching the room for a son she could no longer remember. But she remembered the mission. She remembered the man holding her hand. Jonah looked up at the countdown. 55 seconds. "We have to do it now," Jonah yelled over the din. He didn't run for the detonator. He didn't tackle Call. He ran for the central interface node, a pillar of fiber optics and crystal that controlled the room's broadcast systems. Call saw him. "Stop him!" the director commanded, his voice amplified by the room's speakers. "He is trying to jam the signal." 2 security guards lunged for Jonah. Lyra intercepted them. She didn't have her grace anymore, and she didn't have her light, but she had desperation. She used the momentum of the first guard against him, tripping him into the second. They went down in a tangle of limbs. Jonah slammed his hands onto the interface panel. He didn't type. He didn't try to hack the firewall with code. He closed his eyes and opened the door in his mind that he had spent 20 years trying to keep shut. He reached for the echo. The sensation was instantaneous and agonizing. It felt like sticking a fork into a fusion battery. The neural stabilizers in his brain, the ones implanted during his childhood to keep him human, screamed as he forced them to overload. He pushed his consciousness into the machine. He wasn't looking at a screen anymore. He was the screen. He felt the data streams of Vesper Haven rushing through his optic nerves. He felt the security protocols, the camera feeds, the hidden back doors, and he felt the shadow protocol. "I see you," Jonah thought, his mind becoming a weapon. He grabbed the shadow protocol, the hidden network of echo doubles that Call had used to fake the voices of mentors and commanders, and he turned it inside out. "Now, Lyra!" Jonah screamed, though his mouth barely moved. Lyra scrambled to the podium. pulling the treaty seed from her robes. The small sphere was pulsing faintly. She slammed it onto the authentication pad next to Jonah's hands.
Oh my god.
The treaty seed was a quantum authenticator. It couldn't lie. It couldn't be forged. Jonah used his neural bridge to force the station's broadcast system to accept the seed as the primary admin.
So ugly, dude.
The crimson countdown flickered. 40 seconds. Suddenly, the giant screens shifted. The countdown vanished, replaced by a cascade of raw data.
What?
The room gasped.
What is it?
On the main screen,
What
a
is
video
it?
file began to
Why
play.
are you meowing?
It was dated 3 days ago.
Why are you
It showed
meowing?
Director Call sitting in his office,
Love?
swirling a glass of brandy.
Love?
Opposite him sat
Why are you
Vrex,
meowing?
the Asteri war agent. The payment has been transferred. Call's recorded voice boomed through the chamber, clear and undeniable. Phase 1 begins at the summit. You kill the envoy. I blame the internal coup. We get our war, and you get your weapons. And the civilians? Vrex asked in the recording.
What's that?
Collateral damage, Call replied with a shrug.
How much is this?
Statistics. The feed cut to another file, a scrolling list of bank transfers from the Heliot block to the Assassin's Guild. Then, a schematic of the tectonic resonance device, clearly labeled terraforming charge, authorized by Director Call.
Ooh.
The truth hit the room like a physical shockwave. The delegates stopped screaming.
Are you serious?
They stared at the screens, then turned slowly to look at the man on the podium.
Give me these.
The broadcast wasn't just in the chamber. On the promenade, the rioting dock workers looked up at the public screens. They saw their leader selling them out. They saw the hero discussing their deaths as statistics. In the fleets outside, commanders watched the evidence scroll across their tactical displays. The order to fire on the Asteri ships was countermanded. Weapons powered down. Inside the chamber, the illusion of power shattered. Call stared at the screen, his face draining of color. He looked small now. Just a man in a white suit standing on a lie. It is a fabrication, Call shrieked, his composure cracking. It is an Asteri trick. No, a voice rumbled from the back of the room. Vrex, the Asteri war agent, stepped out from the shadows. He saw the shift in the room. He saw the fleet standing down. He knew the gamble had failed, and Vrex was a survivor. He raised his rail rifle, not at Jonah, but at Lyra. If the war was lost, he would at least take his prize. Traitor! Vrex roared. He fired. Lyra didn't fold. She didn't have the strength left to bend reality. But she didn't need to. She saw the twitch in Vrex's shoulder muscle. She anticipated the shot. She dropped to her knees, sliding across the polished floor. The rail slug shattered the podium behind her. Lyra came up inside Vrex's guard. She was half his size and exhausted, but she was fighting for something he couldn't understand. She jammed her elbow into the nerve cluster under his arm, numbing his grip. The rifle clattered to the floor. Vrex drew a combat knife, slashing at her throat. Lyra caught his wrist. She didn't break it. She didn't drive the bone into his heart, though she could have. Instead, she used his own momentum to flip him. Vrex hit the floor with a crash that cracked the tiles. Lyra stood over him, breathing hard, her hand raised, palm open. We do not kill, she panted, her voice amplified by the stunned silence of the room. We disable, because dead men cannot learn. She looked at the council. This is who we are, she said, not monsters, not conquerors, partners. For a second, there was hope. The truth was out. The villain was exposed. The assassin was down. Then came a mechanical click. Jonah turned. Director Call was holding a small secondary remote. His face was twisted into a rictus of hate. You think this changes anything? Call whispered. You think exposing me saves you? If I cannot captain the ship, I will scuttle it. He pressed the button. Override accepted. Detonation sequence accelerated. The screens flashed red again. Time to impact. 20 seconds. The floor lurched violently, throwing delegates off their feet. The station groaned, the sound of metal shearing under massive stress. "It is a hard-line signal," Jonah yelled, checking the interface. He bypassed the digital controls. He sent a voltage spike directly to the detonator. "Where is it?" Lyra shouted. "The reactor spine," Jonah said. "It is the only place he could hardwire a backup." Jonah didn't wait. He sprinted for the service door behind the podium. Lyra followed him. They burst into the reactor spine. The transition was jarring. They went from the wood-paneled luxury of the council chamber to a vertical shaft of industrial hell. The air here was superheated, smelling of ozone and burning grease. Massive coolant pipes roared, and in the center of the shaft, the station's main reactor pulsed with a blinding blue light. Suspended on a catwalk above the core was the device. It looked like a black tumor attached to the main gyroscope. A thick, shielded cable ran from it into the wall. The hardline call had just activated. 15 seconds. Jonah ran along the catwalk, the metal grating burning his boots. "I have to cut the link," Jonah yelled. He reached the device. The cable was thick, reinforced with polymer weave. He couldn't cut it with a knife. He couldn't shoot it. It was a data stream cable, carrying the kill code. Jonah looked at the connection port. "I have to absorb it," he said. He realized it with a clarity that froze his blood. The only way to stop the signal in 10 seconds was to introduce a chaotic variable into the stream. A feedback loop strong enough to fry the detonator's receiver. His brain was the variable. "Jonah!" Lyra grabbed his arm. "What are you doing?" "I have to interface with the detonator," Jonah said, his voice trembling. "I have to push the echo imprint into the kill code. It will overload the circuit." Lyra looked at the device, then at him. "If you do that," she said, terror widening her eyes, "the feedback will burn out your neural pathways. You will lobotomize your interface ability." "I know," Jonah said. "You will lose the imprint. Jonah, you will lose the echo." She stepped closer, gripping his lapels. "You will lose the connection to me. The resonance, it relies on that anomaly. If you burn it out, the bond breaks. You will not feel me anymore." Jonah looked at her. He looked at the woman who had changed his soul in a single night. He felt the hum of her presence in the back of his mind, the warmth, the safety, the shared gravity. 8 seconds. "If I don't do this," Jonah said, tears mixing with the sweat on his face, "you die. Everyone dies." "I don't care about everyone," Lyra cried, a flash of selfish human panic breaking through her discipline. "I care about us." Jonah cupped her face. "This is us. Lyra, this is the choice." He turned to the panel. "I am doing it." "No," Lyra said. She didn't pull him away. She placed her hands over his. "Not alone," she said fiercely. "I am not a protected asset. I am your partner. If you burn, I burn." She closed her eyes, summoning the last dregs of her strength. She initiated a resonance sync, pouring her own neural energy into him, reinforcing his mind with hers. "Ready?" she whispered. "Ready," Jonah said. 5 seconds. Jonah slammed his hands onto the detonator's interface. He didn't pull back. He pushed. He took the screaming white-hot energy of the echo imprint, the curse that had made him a freak, a tool, a weapon, and he drove it into the machine. "Stop," he commanded. The feedback hit him like a freight train, and it wasn't pain, and it was erasure. He felt the neural pathways scorching, the complex, delicate web of engineered biology turning to ash. He felt the presence of the network fading. And then, he felt the resonance tearing. It was the sound of a violin string snapping in a cathedral. He felt Lyra's mind slipping away from his, the shared emotion, the synchronized heartbeat. The beautiful, terrifying closeness. It was being pulled into the void. Hold on, he thought, reaching for her in the dark. I am here, she answered, her voice faint, like a radio signal moving out of range. I am here. Then, silence. The device let out a high-pitched whine. Sparks showered the catwalk. The black box smoked, sizzled, and died. The countdown froze at 2 seconds. The red lights in the shaft turned back to amber. The hum of the reactor steadied. Jonah fell back, gasping, his hands smoking. He hit the metal grating hard. He lay there, staring up at the tangle of pipes. He waited for the feeling to return. He waited for the hum in his teeth, the ghost touch of Lyra's mood. There was nothing, just the silence of his own skull. It was quiet. It was empty. It was devastatingly normal. Lyra? He whispered. She was kneeling beside him. She looked exhausted, her gray skin pale, her markings completely dark. She was breathing heavily, tears cutting clean tracks through the soot on her face. She reached out and took his hand. He felt her skin. It was cool. It was smooth. But that was all. He felt skin. He didn't feel her. I am here, she said aloud. Her voice sounded small, separated from him by the air, by the physics of sound waves, by the sudden, brutal distance of being two separate individuals. Did we stop it? Jonah asked, his voice cracking. Lyra looked at the dead machine. Yes, she said. It is over. Jonah closed his eyes. The darkness behind his eyelids was absolute. The stars were gone. The aftermath was a blur of noise and triage. Emergency crews swarmed the reactor spine. Medics loaded Jonah and Lyra onto stretchers. Security forces, finally freed from call's override, arrested the director in the council chamber. He didn't fight. He just sat on the floor, staring at the blank screens, muttering about ungrateful children. The treaty survived, but it was a scarred, ugly thing. The signing ceremony took place 3 days later in a makeshift hall in the civilian sector, because the main chamber was structurally unsound. There was no champagne. There were no speeches about a golden age. The delegates signed the document with grim faces, looking over their shoulders. The Heliot block fractured overnight, with call exposed and their funding trail public. The coalition dissolved into infighting. Several high-ranking conspirators managed to slip away on private shuttles, vanishing into the rim systems, leaving a lingering threat of instability. Lyra negotiated a new clause in the treaty, the Sarin Amendment. It explicitly banned the development or use of echo-double technology and granted full citizenship and protection to any human carrying the neural interface anomaly. She turned her pain into policy, but she did it alone. Jonah watched the signing from the back of the room, his arm in a sling, his head bandaged. He felt like a ghost haunting his own life. The press called him a hero. The Alliance offered him a medal. He turned it all down. He walked out before the ceremony ended. He found her later that evening. She was standing in front of Corridor A1 in the VIP sector. The door to the suite, the wrong room, had been sealed with heavy yellow caution tape. The blast marks on the wall were still visible. Jonah walked up beside her. He didn't know if she sensed him coming. She didn't turn until he was right there. Excellency, Jonah said quietly. Lyra turned. She wore formal robes again, stiff and ceremonial, covering her markings. She looked regal, distant. Mr. Vale, she said. The formality stung like a slap. How are you? Jonah asked. Lyra looked at the sealed door. I am recovering, she said. The memory loss is permanent. I will never remember the violet sun of my home, but I have watched videos of it. It is pretty. She looked at him, Her eyes were sad. And you? How is the silence? It is loud, Jonah admitted. I keep reaching for you, in my head. I keep waiting to feel what you are feeling. But there is just... me. Lyra nodded. I feel it too, she said. The grief. It feels like losing a limb. The resonance is gone. Jonah, your interface is burned out. We are biologically incompatible again. Jonah leaned against the wall. So that is it? We saved the galaxy, and the price was us? Lyra stepped closer. She didn't glow. She didn't hum. She was just a woman standing in a hallway. The resonance was a shortcut. Jonah. It was biology and adrenaline and quantum entanglement. It forced us to be honest. It forced us to be close. She reached out and took his hand. Her grip was firm. But it was not love, she said. It was gravity. Jonah looked at their joined hands. What is this then? He asked. This is work, Lyra said. This is the hard part, the human part. I cannot feel your heartbeat in my mind anymore. If I want to know how you are feeling, I have to ask. If I want you to know I care, I have to show you. She squeezed his hand. I am willing to do the work. Jonah, if you are. Jonah looked at her. He looked at the alien woman who had saved his life, who had given up her memories for him, who had stood with him in the fire. He didn't need a neural link to know what he felt. I am staying, he said. Lyra smiled. It was a small, tired, genuine smile. Good, she said, because I am not asking you to leave. She turned back to the sealed door. They say this is where the mistake happened, she said softly. The glitch, the accident. Jonah shook his head. He looked at the caution tape, remembering the smell of jasmine and the fear and the moment the lock clicked shut. It wasn't a mistake, he said. He pulled out his recorder, the one he had spoken into in the chapel. He turned it over in his hand, then put it back in his pocket. He didn't need the recording. He had the truth. I entered the wrong room, Jonah said, his voice steady in the quiet corridor. The alien woman didn't ask me to leave. That night changed the shape of my soul. He looked at Lyra, and every moment since then, every step, every shot, every scar, it was a choice. Lyra leaned her head against his shoulder. We kept choosing each other, she whispered, without surrendering our freedom. Jonah finished. They stood there for a long time, two quiet figures in a station that was slowly learning how to breathe again. They were no longer the interface and the key. They were just Jonah and Lyra, standing at the threshold of a very long, very ordinary future, ready to build something real from the ashes of the extraordinary. Jonah squeezed her hand. So, he said, who does the dishes tonight? Lyra laughed, the sound bright and clear in the empty hall. You do. Liaison Vale. I saved the galaxy. You can scrub the plates. Jonah smiled. Deal. They turned and walked away from the wrong room, leaving the door sealed tight, but leaving their own hearts wide open.